Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Sign into Mr. Yi, My Power is Invincible. Chapter 1, Xuanwang Great World, Northern Wasteland, Qingyan Dynasty. The Royal Study Room of the Royal Palace. A young man wearing a golden royal robe and with extraordinary features sat on an exquisite wooden chair, looking at the unfamiliar environment around him with a blank look on his face. Suddenly, the young man felt a swelling and pain in his head, and huge memories poured into his mind instantly. Did I transmigrate? After receiving these strange memories, the young man couldn't help but murmur. The young man's name is Yiling Tian. He was a recently graduated college student from Blue Star and lived a hard life of 996. It was rare that I had time to rest today, so I went to a not-so-serious foot wash shop and ordered No. 88 long legs technician. As a result, I was so excited that I fainted. When he woke up again, he appeared in this strange place inexplicably. Now, he has transmigrated to a fantasy world called the Xuanwang Great World, and has become Yiling Tian, the newly succeeded king of the Qingyan Dynasty in the northern wasteland of the Xuanwang Great World. The reason why he became the king of the Qingyan Dynasty was because something happened to his predecessor's father, the previous generation Qingyan King Yi Qingyan. Not long ago, the Qingyan Dynasty is fighting against the northern Hanfang Dynasty. Yi Qingyan, the only strong martial king in the Qingyan Dynasty, has been assassinated. His life and death are still unknown, and his whereabouts are unknown. The two great military commanders of the Qingyan Dynasty, the Venerable Realm, also all fell and were completely defeated. Nowadays, a large area of the Qingyan Dynasty's territory has been occupied by the Hanfang Dynasty, and the Hanfang Dynasty's army is about to surround Qingyan King's city. In other words, I, the newly crowned king of the Qingyan Dynasty, will soon become the king of subjugation. After learning about the situation of the Qingyan Dynasty, Yiling Tian immediately panicked. In the fantasy world, martial Dao's cultivation is normal, which proves that he has not been sucked dry by his grandparents. This Goldfinger obviously does not exist. A god-defying creature of unknown origin. Yiling Tian took out everything he could think of and dripped blood on it. After that, apart from feeling a little weak, there was nothing more. Is it a system flow? Tongzi, are you there? Come out and say something now. This situation is serious. If you don't come out, we will both have to go back to the drawing board and start over. Xuanwang Great World, the realm of cultivation is divided into martial apprentice, martial master, martial emperor, martial venerable, martial king, martial sovereign, martial god, martial saint, martial emperor. Each realm is divided into 4 levels: primary, intermediate, advanced, and top. Only those who have reached the martial king realm can be qualified to establish a dynasty and dominate one side. Today's Qingyan Dynasty doesn't even have a martial venerable. If the system didn't have it, Yiling Tian could only sing a cool song to himself. Master, don't panic, it's impossible to reinvent the wheel. This system will never be reinvented in this lifetime. Ding! Congratulations to the owner for successfully activating the Yi family's exclusive sign-in system. At this moment, a crisp Lolita sound suddenly sounded in Yiling Tian's mind. Yiling Tian suddenly became energetic. He is indeed well organized. And she's a loli type. Not bad. Loli sound is good. Listening to it makes me feel much more relaxed than the voice of a big man picking his feet. Sister Tongzi, come on, sign in. Although he was a little confused about this exclusive sign-in system for the Yi family, he was an old bookworm who was familiar with sign-in articles. Yiling Tian was too lazy to think about it and signed in first to get a wave of rewards. Ding! Sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the owner for randomly receiving 5 excellent character fragment cards. Immediately afterwards, a virtual space with many grids appeared in front of Yiling Tian. In the first grid on the upper left, there were 5 cards. The size of the 5 cards is almost the same as the Bumpman cards he played with when he was a child. The main body is purple and made of an unknown material. There is a vague character pattern on it. Since it is just a character fragment card, the character pattern on the card is also fragmented. Quote ? Yiling Tian stared blankly at the 5 purple cards, with big question marks all over his forehead. Sister Tongzi, your sign-in system seems to be weak. Is this the reward? Yiling Tian wanted to cry but had no tears. Someone else's sign-in system starts with the ancient holy body and heaven-defying kung fu, so you reward me with 5 broken cards. What the hell is this? It's over. I finally transmigrate the system and activate it. Isn't it possible that I have encountered a vase in the system world? What's going on? Master, are you looking down on me? There are thousands of fantasy novels, and the boss named Yi accounts for half of them. This system rewards the fragment cards of the Yi family bosses in each world. Collect a certain number of fragment cards to synthesize character cards. Use the character cards to gain the power of the character card within 5 minutes. After the end, part of the cultivation level will be returned and randomly obtained. A treasure of this character's skills. Yi Lingtian was slightly startled, and then he found a line of small words in the upper right corner of the card. The world that covers the sky. Excellent Yi fan, 5/30. I'm in a trough. Yi Lingtian stared at this name and his eyes widened immediately. As a fan of fantasy novels, how could Yi Lingtian not know the name of Yi Heavenly Emperor? Even among the many protagonists of fantasy novels, this one is definitely an outstanding one. Sister Tongzi, your sign and function sounds very high-end, and it feels like it's going to explode. But the problem is that I'm being beaten to the door of my house now. What's the use of you just giving me 5 fragment cards? Yi Lingtian couldn't help but complain in his heart. Strength. What he needs now is the strength to make a comeback. Although Yi Heavenly Emperor is awesome, distant water cannot save the near fire. Tongzi only gave him 5 fragment cards, but 30 fragment cards were needed to synthesize the excellent Yi fan. By the time he collects 30 fragment cards of Yi Heavenly Emperor, Hanfang Dynasty may have already conquered Qingyan King City, and his body is half cold. Master, don't panic. Since you are familiar with the system text and know the routines of the system text, don't you know that Tongzi will give out novice gift packages to the host? Ding! Congratulations to the master for getting a newbie gift package, and a random Yi family outstanding character card will be awarded. As the system's voice resounded in Yi Lingtian's mind, a complete purple character card appeared directly out of thin air in the virtual space. One sword dominates the world. Yi's on excellent level. Yi Lingtian looked at the complete purple card and his eyes suddenly lit up. Sister Tongzi, does it mean that if I use this card, I will have all the strength of this character in 5 minutes? In the world of one sword, this person is the 4th sword after 3 swords. He is also a very awesome existence. No, character cards are divided into excellent purple cards, peerless orange cards, and mythical red cards. Only mythical character cards will have the full power of the character. Yi Lingtian was suddenly a little disappointed. What is the level of the outstanding character? Master, rest assured, the products produced by this system must be high quality. The system said arrogantly. Even the power of an outstanding character card is comparable to the Xuanwang Great World Martial Emperor. Hiss. Yi Lingtian couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Comparable to Xuanwang Great World Martial Emperor. Doesn't this mean that as long as he uses this excellent character card, he will have the power of Emperor Realm within 5 minutes? As expected of Tongzi, Clay's is indeed awesome. Sister Tongzi, you said that part of the cultivation level will be returned after the character card is used, but the cultivation system in each world is different. Is this really okay? Yi Lingtian asked about the worries in his heart. In the fantasy world, almost every world has its own independent cultivation system. If he uses character cards from a few more worlds, God knows if he will be killed, disabled or pregnant by these messy cultivations. Don't worry, Master. Although the previous host died due to a system bug, it was just an accident. This system has been continuously tested and there are currently no bugs. All character cards will be transformed into the power of the Xuanwang Great World after use, so you don't have to worry at all. Quote. Yi Lingtian's head was suddenly filled with black lines. I'm worried about the hammer. Hearing what you said made me even more panicked. But, now that the Hanfang dynasty's army is approaching and will soon besiege the Qingyan King City, Yi Lingtian doesn't have to worry about it anymore. The top priority is to use the power of the system to stabilize the situation of the Qingyan dynasty. Thinking of this, Yi Lingtian's eyes flashed and he shouted, Wei Xian. As Yi Lingtian shouted, a middle-aged man in a green robe quickly flashed in from outside the study. Wei Xian, how is the situation in the Qingyan dynasty now? Yi Lingtian looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and asked directly. Wei Xian, the commander of the Qingyan Guard, is also a powerful confidant left to him by his chief father Yi Qingyan. His cultivation has reached the top level of martial arts, and he is only one step away from being a martial venerable. Since Yi Qingyan disappeared and the two major martial venerables of the Qingyan dynasty fell, Wei Xian has almost become the strongest combat force in the Qingyan dynasty. I report to my king that the Hanfang dynasty's army is less than 100 miles away from Qingyan King's city and will soon besiege Qingyan King's city. The leader is Tuo Bahan, the venerable realm warrior of the Hanfang dynasty. Wei Xian knelt directly in front of Yi Lingtian. Your Majesty, if you keep the Green Hills, you won't have to worry about running out of firewood. The Hanfang dynasty is unstoppable. Please break out of the encirclement as soon as possible. Your subordinates are willing to fight to the death to carve out a bloody path for your Majesty. Break out. If Qingyan King's city is lost, even though this world is so big, how can there be any place for me to stay? Yi Lingtian shook his head and said calmly, send the order and fight the Hanfang dynasty with all our strength. I swear to live and die with the Qingyan royal city. When Wei Xian heard this, his expression changed slightly. Kings, no need to say more, I have made up my mind. Yi Lingtian waved his hand and directly interrupted Wei Xian's words. He now has a systematic cheat, and holds a trump card comparable to Emperor Realm. Not to mention the Hanfang dynasty, even the Northern Wilderness dynasty that once ruled the Northern Wilderness realm is no different from an ant in front of Emperor Wu Realm. However, just when Yi Lingtian finished speaking, a penetrating and loud voice exploded in the sky above Qingyan King's city like rolling thunder. Tuoba Yuan of Hanfang dynasty came to pay a visit. This sudden sound also made many people in Qingyan King's city despair. Tuoba Yuan, this is the famous military commander of Hanfang dynasty. It's over, it's over. Today's Qingyan dynasty doesn't have any venerable realm warriors at all. How can it resist Tuoba Yuan? Quote. In the imperial study room, Yi Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly. This commander-in-chief of the Hanfang dynasty, the venerable realm, came really quickly. Wei Xian said in a deep voice, Your Majesty, it is impossible for the Hanfang dynasty's army to come so fast. Tuoba Yuan was probably worried that you would abandon the city and escape, so he led a few strong men to rush to the Qingyan King's city. Let's go and meet the venerable realm commander of Hanfang dynasty. As Yi Lingtian spoke, he strode outside the imperial study room. Not long after, Yi Lingtian, surrounded by a group of people, came to the wall of Qingyan King's city. I saw a huge black eagle hovering in midair hundreds of meters away from Qingyan King's city, with 3 figures in black armor standing on its back. The leader is none other than the venerable realm commander of Hanfang dynasty, Tuoba Yuan. Xuanwang Great World, only the martial king realm can break the shackles of heaven and earth and master the ability to fly in the air. Although Tuoba Yuan is a venerable realm, he cannot stand in the air for a long time without the help of external force. Tuoba Yuan, you are quite courageous. You actually dare to come to Qingyan King's city and run wild like this. Yi Lingtian stood with his hands behind his hands, looking at Tuoba Yuan calmly, and his faint voice suddenly sounded. Yi Lingtian, it's already this time, why do you have to talk such useless nonsense in front of me? Tuoba Yuan shook his head and chuckled, the Qingyan dynasty is now over. If you surrender now, you may still have a chance to survive. To resist stubbornly is just to bring shame on yourself. In the Xuanwang Great World, a dynasty with a powerful person in the martial king realm can be considered a true dynasty. Today's Qingyan dynasty not only does not have a martial king, it does not even have a martial venerable realm. Although the newly succeeded King Qingyan has good talents, he is still too young and has only the cultivation level of a junior martial arts master. Such a Qingyan dynasty, Tuoba Yuan can destroy it with a snap of his fingers. Tuoba Yuan, even if the Qingyan dynasty does not have my father in charge, it is not a soft persimmon to be manipulated by your Hanfang dynasty. Yi Lingtian's whole body exuded an aura of calmness and dignity. I will also give you a chance to take your Hanfang dynasty people out of the Qingyan dynasty, otherwise you will not blame me for being rude. Ha ha ha, Yi Lingtian, I, Tuoba Yuan, would like to see how you are going to be rude to me today. Tuoba Yuan suddenly laughed with disdain. He is the top martial venerable of the Hanfang dynasty. In the Qingyan dynasty, Who else can pose a threat to him except the former King Qingyan? Tu Baiyuan, do you really think that our Qingyan dynasty doesn't have any trump cards? Since you insist on seeking death, I will help you. After Yi Lingtian's cold words fell, he immediately clasped his palms together with a pious look on his face. Yi Lingtian of the Yi family, please come to the ancestor of the Yi family. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Yi Lingtian's sudden move not only stunned Tu Baiyuan, but also Wei Xian and others were confused. Their king, what kind of trouble is this? They naturally know very well what is going on in the Qingyan dynasty. Many of them followed the previous generation of Qingyan King Yi Qingyan, started from scratch after the Northern Wilderness dynasty fell apart, and finally established the Qingyan dynasty. It can be said, the Qingyan dynasty has almost no foundation at all. Calling ancestors. However, your reincarnation skills are not good, and your ancestors are not strong enough. Don't talk about summoning the ancestors. Even if you dig the ancestors out of the coffin, it will be useless. Wei Xian and others all smiled bitterly in their hearts. If the Qingyan dynasty really had such an ancestor, it would not be in this situation. Yi Lingtian probably wanted to use this method to scare Tu Baiyuan, but how could someone like Tu Baiyuan be frightened by such a little trick? Ancestor of the Yi family. Tu Baiyuan was stunned for a moment, and then quickly came to his senses. He sneered with disdain and said, Yi Lingtian, you think I don't know what the Qingyan dynasty is like? You just want to scare me away by creating an unfounded ancestor. Do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Who told you that I was bluffing? Yi Lingtian smiled coldly and directly used the excellent Yi Zhan character card. The next second, an extremely terrifying aura spread from Yi Lingtian's body. The terrifying aura swept through all directions with Yi Lingtian as the center, instantly covering the entire Qingyan city, making everyone feel as if they were about to be out of breath. I'm in a trough. Feeling the terrifying aura that suddenly erupted from Yi Lingtian's body, Wei Xian and others immediately opened their mouths, and their eyes almost popped out of their eyes in shock. It seems that their newly succeeded King Qingyan really summoned an ancestor of the Yi family. What exactly is going on? Could it be? Does their Qingyan dynasty really have an unknown ancestor? Thinking of this, Wei Xian and other senior officials of the Qingyan dynasty had extremely excited expressions on their faces. Welcome to the arrival of Patriarch Qingyan. Wei Xian and others all prostrated on the ground and shouted respectfully to Yi Lingtian. Although I don't know where the ancestor came from, I will pay my respects first and then talk about it. Even if he is not an ancestor, he still has to be worshipped as an ancestor. This ancestor arrived with the help of Yi Lingtian's body, and the aura he exuded was extremely powerful, probably at least comparable to those in the martial king realm. The Qingyan dynasty can be saved. How? How is it possible? Tu Baiyuan stared at Yi Lingtian, feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Yi Lingtian's body, and felt as if he had seen a ghost. The Qingyan dynasty really has an ancestor. It's so off the mark. The Hanfang dynasty and the Qingyan dynasty have been enemies for many years. The Hanfang dynasty already knows the situation of the Qingyan dynasty very well. Except for Yi Qingyan, there is absolutely no martial king realm expert in the Qingyan dynasty. How could such a powerful ancestor appear out of nowhere? Just with the help of Yi Lingtian's body, the aura emitted made him, a top-level martial venerable, tremble with fear. This ancestor of the Qingyan dynasty is probably even more terrifying than Yi Qingyan. I never expected that the Qingyan dynasty would have such a trump card. Tu Baiyuan took a deep breath and suppressed the fear in his heart. Without any nonsense at all, he decisively controlled the Black Hawk to turn around and fly towards the sky. Escape. The purpose of Yi Lingtian's decisive summons to the ancestor of the Qingyan dynasty is self-evident, which is to kill him directly outside the Qingyan king's city. Once he falls here, the elite army of the Hanfang dynasty commanded by him will be leaderless, and it is very likely that the Qingyan dynasty will annihilate it in one fell swoop. Snort. Where do you think this little guy dares to offend our Qingyan dynasty? This Qingyan king city is not a place where you can come and leave whenever you want. Now that you are here, stay here forever. Yi Lingtian deliberately made an old voice, then raised his hand and pointed in the air at Tu Baiyuan and the others who were fleeing in panic. The next second, 3 rays of sword energy were nailed to the eyebrows of Tu Baiyuan and the others without any warning, instantly imprisoning them in place. Even Tuoba Yuan, the top-level martial venerable, has no power to resist at all. You. Who are you? How come the Qingyan dynasty has such a powerful ancestor like you? Tuoba Yuan's face was full of despair and horror, and his expression was extremely miserable. The Hanfang dynasty finally plotted against Qingyan King Yi Qingyan, but unexpectedly a mysterious and powerful ancestor appeared, whose strength was probably even worse than Yi Qingyan. It's over. Hanfang dynasty was careless after all. Those who offend the Qingyan dynasty will die. Yi Lingtian's indifferent voice fell, and he immediately waved his hands to Tu Baiyuan and the others. The sword energy between their eyebrows instantly wiped out the Tu Baiyuan and the others, turning into 3 blood mist and completely dissipating between the heaven and the earth. After solving Tuoba Yuan and the others, Yi Lingtian's powerful spiritual consciousness quickly spread to the surroundings. Using the excellent Yi Zhan character card, within 5 minutes Yi Lingtian had a power comparable to that of the powerful Xuanwang Great World Martial Emperor realm. His consciousness quickly sensed the Hanfang dynasty's army, which was less than 100 miles away from Qingyan King's city. Yi Lingtian didn't hesitate at all, raised his hand and swung his sword in the air. Next moment, a bright sword light suddenly landed from the sky above the Hanfang dynasty army. The army composed of tens of thousands of elite martial artists from the Hanfang dynasty was defeated by this sword and was beaten to death and 9 wounded before they could even react. After defeating the Hanfang dynasty's army, Yi Lingtian's consciousness continued to spread to the north. Very quickly, Yi Lingtian's consciousness crossed the territory of the Qingyan dynasty and stayed at the junction of the Qingyan dynasty and the Hanfang dynasty. Not long ago, his chief father, Yi Qingyan, the previous generation of Qingyan king, fought against the Hanfang dynasty at this place. After that battle, Yi Qingyan's life and death are uncertain, and his whereabouts are unknown, as if he has evaporated out of thin air. Yi Lingtian scanned the entire battlefield with his powerful consciousness, and soon sensed something. There are actually spatial fluctuations. Yi Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly. This remaining space fluctuation should be left by someone forcibly breaking through the space. In the Xuanwang Great World, even the martial king cannot break through the space. Only the martial sovereign above the martial king can do it. That is to say, in the battle between the Qingyan dynasty and the Hanfang dynasty that day, it was very likely that martial sovereign appeared. Father Yi Qingyan disappeared inexplicably, and it was most likely related to this mysterious martial sovereign. Yi Lingtian was shocked and confused. In the memory, Yi Qingyan, the chief father, was originally born in an inconspicuous small family in the Northern Wasteland dynasty. After the Northern Wasteland dynasty fell apart, he rose up against the odds and founded the Qingyan dynasty from scratch. How could he be related to the powerful martial sovereign? Why did this mysterious martial sovereign strongman only take away Yi Qingyan and let the Qingyan dynasty fend for itself? Shaked his head, Yi Lingtian put aside his thoughts and withdrew his consciousness. Although he now possesses peerless power, he can only maintain it for 5 minutes and has no time to follow Yi Qingyan's footsteps. The top priority is to stabilize the Qingyan dynasty. Although today's battle is enough to deter the Hanfang dynasty and other surrounding dynasties, the Qingyan dynasty is too weak now. Just in case, while the power of the character card has not disappeared, he has to leave some backup in the Qingyan dynasty. Think of this. Yi Lingtian raised his hand and waved, and the 4 sword energy instantly disappeared into the 4 characters Qingyan King City above the city gate. Each of these 4 sword energies can easily kill a strong martial king in an instant. In a short period of time, it is enough to ensure that the king of Qingyan can sit back and relax, and he can develop stably. Wei Xian, the Hanfang dynasty's army has been crippled. I have appointed you as the Grand Marshal of the Qingyan dynasty to destroy the remaining Hanfang dynasty army and recover the lost territory. After Yi Lingtian left 4 sword energies in Qingyan City, he directly gave instructions to Wei Xian behind him. I obey my orders. Wei Xian suppressed the excitement in his heart. Originally, he was already prepared to follow Yi Lingtian and die for his country. But I didn't expect it. Yi Lingtian actually summoned an ancestor of the Yi family to turn the tide and instantly killed the top-level martial Venerable Tuoba Yuan. It is true that God will not destroy their Qingyan dynasty. After Wei Xian led the people away, 5 minutes passed quickly. The powerful power that Yi Lingtian obtained through the character card dissipated without a trace in an instant. At the same time, two pleasant voices sounded directly in Yilingtian's mind. Ding! The master uses the excellent Yi Zhan character card to finish, and a large amount of the character card's cultivation level will be returned. Ding! Congratulations to the owner for getting a chance to draw a random item related to this character. As these two prompts sounded, Yilingtian felt that his cultivation level was increasing at a terrifying speed. Just the blink of an eye. His cultivation level has been upgraded from the elementary martial arts to the intermediate martial arts. And this speed of improvement is far from stopping. High-level martial artist, top-level martial arts master, elementary martial venerable, ... In less than a moment, Yilingtian's cultivation has broken through the top level of martial venerable and reached the lower level of martial king. Tisk tisk, the return of this character card's cultivation level is simply not too awesome. Yilingtian couldn't help but secretly click his tongue. Use the character card once, and the returned cultivation will make him a junior martial king. If he uses this a few more times, martial god or martial emperor will probably look like scum in front of him. How about it? Now you know how powerful this system is. At this moment, the system's arrogant voice also sounded in Yilingtian's mind. Sister Tongzi, you are so embarrassed that you have conquered the country and the city. You have to be the best sign in system in the world. Yilingtian quickly flattered him, and then asked, isn't there another chance to draw a lottery? I want to draw a lottery. As soon as Yilingtian finished speaking, a virtual circular turntable appeared in front of him. This circular turntable was divided into countless grids, each grid was a treasure and unique skill possessed by the character, which made Yilingtian dazzled. Crazy bloodline, the art of slashing the sky and drawing the sword. Hongmeng Tower, Qingshan sword, ... These peerless treasures are all listed impressively. Start the lottery. Yilingtian took a deep breath and chose to start the lottery. The pointer on the circular turntable began to rotate rapidly, and finally stopped slowly at the grid where a small tower-shaped object was located. Ding! Congratulations to the master for obtaining the Hongmeng Tower. As a sweet system prompt sounded, the small tower instantly flew out of the circular turntable and floated directly in front of Yilingtian. Yilingtian's eyes suddenly lit up. I was pretty lucky, and I actually got a Hongmeng Tower that has been passed down for 3 generations. Hongmeng Tower. It contains the treasure of Hongmeng purple energy. The tower is a world of its own. After being transformed by the boss, the flow of time changes dramatically. 1 day outside the tower and 10 years inside the tower. After getting the information about Hongmeng Tower, Yilingtian was extremely happy. It turned out to be the Hongmeng Tower transformed by Destiny Boss. 1 day outside the tower, 10 years inside the tower. If the Qingyan dynasty were sent to the Hongmeng Tower to develop for 10 or 8 years, the Xuanwang Great World's imperial dynasty would probably be pinned to the ground and rubbed by the Qingyan dynasty. Master, please don't daydream. Although the system reward items will automatically recognize their owners, the spirits of all items have been erased. Therefore, it requires strength to control the Hongmeng Tower. Including the Qingyan dynasty in the Hongmeng Tower, even if you reach the level of Xuanwang Great World's martial arts emperor realm may not be able to do it, but with your current strength, it would be good if you can send someone into Hongmeng Tower. At this moment, lowly Tongzi struck mercilessly. Well, Yilingtian was slightly startled. Hongmeng Tower no longer has the spirit of the Tower Master. This seems to be a lot less fun. But it makes sense when you think about it. If the Tower spirit of Hongmeng Tower is still there, how can the Tower Master who has been passed down for 3 generations from one tower mix with him? Although there is no Tower spirit, he will be greatly restricted in controlling the Hongmeng Tower by himself, but as long as the function is available for 1 day outside the tower and 10 years inside the tower, it is enough. Even if he can only send 1 person into the Hongmeng Tower at a time, Yilingtian is confident that he can create a group of martial king and even martial sovereign realm experts in a short period of time. To the north of Qingyan dynasty, the center of Hanfang dynasty, Hanfang King City. A burly middle-aged man with a stern face and wearing a black royal robe was sitting quietly cross-legged in a hall in the palace, his whole body filled with the power of a powerful king. The burly middle-aged man is none other than the current king of the Hanfang dynasty, Tuoba Han. Suddenly, Tuoba Han, who had been meditating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his sharp eyes and shot out a heart-stopping light. At that moment, I felt uneasy. How could it be possible? Tuoba Han could not help but murmur in a low voice. As the king of the Hanfang dynasty and a powerful man in the martial king realm, Tuoba Han had not felt like this for a long time. Could it be that it was Yi Qingyan? It seems that letting Yi Qingyan escape with serious injuries was a real trouble. Tuoba Han's eyes were changing. Just when he was about to make a move, a black shadow with a slightly frightened expression came from outside the hall. Your Majesty, we have just received news from the Qingyan dynasty that Tuoba Yuan, the commander of the Venerable Realm, has died outside the Qingyan King's city. Tuoba Yuan fell outside King Qingyan city. When Tuoba Han heard this, his pupils suddenly shrank. Something unexpected happened in the Qingyan dynasty. What's going on? Has Yi Qingyan returned to the Qingyan dynasty? Tuoba Yuan is one of the 3 martial venerables in Hanfang dynasty, and he is also the only one who has reached the top level of martial venerable. He is only one step away from the martial king realm. With Tuoba Yuan's strength, no one can pose a threat to him unless martial king takes action. The only thing Tuoba Han could think of was that Yi Qingyan had returned. The black shadow shook his head and said shockingly, "There is still no news about Yi Qingyan, it is the King Qingyan who just succeeded to the throne." What did you say? Tuoba Han stared at the black shadow in disbelief, even wondering if there was something wrong with his ears. Isn't King Qingyan, who just succeeded to the throne of the Qingyan dynasty, Yi Qingyan's son Yi Lingtian? Although that kid is one of the top geniuses in the Qingyan dynasty, he reached the Wuzong realm before he was 20 years old. Martial Dao's talent is enough to kill his 3 sons in an instant. But no matter how evil Yi Lingtian is, there is no way he can kill Tuoba Yuan, right? The low-level martial venerable killed the top-level martial venerable. You are teasing me, Your Majesty. According to the information I received, Yi Lingtian summoned a mysterious ancestor of the Qingyan dynasty and killed Tuoba Yuan instantly with one move. The black shadow looked solemn and authentic. Qingyan dynasty ancestor killed Tuoba Yuan instantly. Tuoba Han had a look of astonishment on his face, feeling that his brain was a little out of use. As far as he knows, the Yi family, where Yi Qingyan was born, was once an inconspicuous third-rate family in the Northern Wilderness dynasty, and the strongest ancestors were only in the Wuzong realm. Even if Yi Lingtian dug out all the 18 generations of their Yi family ancestors, it would still be impossible to instantly kill the top-level martial venerable Tuoba Yuan. What the hell is going on here? Although he was a little confused, Tuoba Han also knew that the information Haiying got could not be false. Even if there is no ancestor in the Qingyan dynasty, there must be mysterious and powerful people to help. Tuoba Han's face looked a little unsightly. He originally thought that as long as he solved Yi Qingyan, it would be easy to overthrow the Qingyan dynasty, but he did not expect that such a change would happen. Who is helping the Qingyan dynasty? Your Majesty, Tuoba Yuan has fallen and the army he led is leaderless. Should we send someone to respond? At this moment, the black shadow reminded him. The death of Tuoba Yuan, the top-level martial venerable, was already a big blow to the Hanfang dynasty. The army he leads is also the most elite of the Hanfang dynasty. If they lose this elite army again, it will be enough to severely damage the strength of the Hanfang dynasty. I'm afraid it's too late. Tuoba Han shook his head. Since the Qingyan dynasty has used such trump cards, how can it possibly let go of the elite army of the Hanfang dynasty? The Qingyan dynasty has the help of a mysterious and powerful person. It seems that it is impossible to completely destroy the Qingyan dynasty. When Tuoba Han said this, a sharp light suddenly flashed in his eyes. Send the order, shrink the defense line, retreat to Qianyuan Prefecture, and let the eldest prince, forget it, I will personally go and take charge of Qianyuan Prefecture. The reason why Tuoba Han launched a war against the Qingyan dynasty was not only because he was ambitious and wanted to expand territory for the Hanfang dynasty, but there was another important reason. He accidentally got information from an incomplete ancient book that the Qianyuan Prefecture of the Qingyan dynasty had the inheritance of martial sovereign. Therefore, other territories can be returned to the Qingyan dynasty, but Qianyuan Prefecture must not be lost. This time, he will personally take charge of Qianyuan Prefecture and find the martial sovereign inheritance hidden in Qianyuan Prefecture. If he can obtain the martial sovereign inheritance, he will have a chance to reach the martial sovereign state. By the time, it is not impossible for him to end the struggle for hegemony among the 10 major dynasties in the northern wasteland and create a brand new dynasty. Tuoba Han wasted no time and immediately summoned the important ministers to discuss, leaving the third prince Tuobazan to take charge of the Hanfang dynasty and personally lead the elite of the Hanfang dynasty to Qianyuan prefecture. The next day, outside Hanfang King City, an elegant young man with gorgeous clothes and extraordinary bearing watched respectfully as Tuoba Han's army disappeared from sight. The elegant young man is none other than Tuobazan, the third prince of Hanfang dynasty. Master, this time I am going to Qianyuan prefecture with the king, why don't you fight for it? Seeing the Hanfang dynasty's army completely disappearing from sight, the silver-armored guard beside him finally couldn't help but speak. The Qianyuan state of the Qingyan dynasty has a martial sovereign inheritance, and they, the core members of the Hanfang dynasty, know about it. This time Tuoba Han went on a personal expedition, and the eldest and second princes argued hard to obtain the qualifications to go to Qianyuan prefecture. After all, obtaining the martial sovereign inheritance depends on chance. As long as you go to Qianyuan state, you will have a certain chance of getting the martial sovereign inheritance. Even if you can't get the martial sovereign inheritance, even if you can discover the martial sovereign inheritance, it will be a great achievement, and you can even hope to become the heir to the Hanfang dynasty. I, the third prince, am already a transparent person in the Hanfang dynasty. Since I can't compete with them, why bother? Tuoba Zan smiled lightly. The three eldest princes, the eldest prince and the second prince of the Hanfang dynasty all have their own forces behind them, but he, the third prince who was born as a concubine, has no power. Martial Dao's talent is not very good, so he wants to compete with others for his head. Shaking his head, Tuoba Zan's eyes flashed with a hint of wisdom. What's more, I never thought about fighting. Qianyuan state is a place of disputes. Going there now is not a wise choice. The silver-armored guard was slightly startled. Master, what do you mean? My father is too ambitious, but unfortunately the Hanfang dynasty is not strong enough to support his ambition. This time we failed to destroy the Qingyan dynasty in one go. It is almost impossible to monopolize the martial sovereign inheritance of Qianyuan state. The best choice now is to negotiate peace with the Qingyan dynasty and share the martial sovereign inheritance. Otherwise, the stalemate with the Qingyan dynasty will last too long. Once the news is leaked and the 10 major dynasties in the northern wasteland gather together, nothing will happen to the Hanfang dynasty. Tuoba chuckled lightly. The silver-armored guard looked in disbelief. A stalemate should be unlikely, right? The Qingyan dynasty is at the end of its tether, so what can we do to resist King Hanfang? If the Qingyan dynasty was really at its end, the top-level marshal Venerable Tuoba Yuan would not have fallen to the Qingyan dynasty. Tuoba Zan sighed softly. The Hanfang dynasty planned to ambush King Qingyan Yi Qingyan. The originally foolproof plan ended up causing Yi Qingyan to be seriously injured and escape. Top-level Marshal Venerable Tuoba Yuan attacked Qingyan King City, but fell outside Qingyan King City. Qingyan dynasty is full of weirdness. Tuoba Zan had a feeling. If his father continued to fight against the Qingyan dynasty, he would most likely be in trouble. Thinking of this, Tuoba Zan's eyes flashed and he murmured to himself, after so many years of fishing, the opportunity has finally come. Let's go and follow this prince to the ancestral temple of the palace. Master, why are you going to the palace and ancestral hall? The silver-armored guard looked confused. King Hanfang took the eldest and second prince to the Qingyan dynasty, which was indeed an opportunity for his master. He really couldn't figure out why he was going to the palace and ancestral hall at this time. My father has a plan for death. For the sake of the future of the Hanfang dynasty, go to the ancestral hall and cross out my page from the family tree. I want a separate page of the family tree. After saying that, Tuoba Zan turned and left in large strides. Quote. The silver-armored guard looked at Tuoba Zan's back and couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. He originally thought that his master should take advantage of this period to slowly develop his own power, but who knew that he would have to open a separate page of the family tree as soon as he took action. Do you want it to be so exciting? Red Sword Pass. There is a famous Shangguan in the Qingyan dynasty, located in the southernmost part of Qianyuan prefecture. The entire Shangguan is made of a unique red stone, standing like a red giant sword on the ground. This pass is also the only way to Qianyuan Prefecture in the north. Red Sword closes the south gate. A dark army came to the outside of the pass with great momentum. The leader was Yi Lingtian. A few days ago, with the help of the excellent Yi Zan character card, Yi Lingtian powerfully killed the top-level marshal Venerable Tuoba Yuan and regained most of the territory of the Qingyan dynasty. Only Qianyuan Prefecture in the north is still under the control of Hanfang dynasty. The Hanfang dynasty not only defended Qianyuan Prefecture, but even Hanfang King Tuoba Han personally came to Qianyuan Prefecture to provide support. The Hanfang dynasty's actions undoubtedly gave Yi Lingtian a hint of something unusual. To be able to have a martial king pay so much attention to Qianyuan state must be extraordinary. That's why Yi Lingtian also immediately led his team towards Qianyuan Prefecture. At the same time that Yi Lingtian personally led his army to appear outside the Red Sword Pass, Tuoba Han, who was stationed inside the Red Sword Pass, also sensed it immediately. He flashed and came directly to the sky outside Red Sword Pass. Are you Yi Lingtian, the new king of the Qingyan dynasty? On the contrary, I look down upon you. You dare to come to Qianyuan Prefecture even though you know that I am here to control you. Tuoba Han stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes locked directly on Yi Lingtian. Yi Lingtian met Tuoba Han's gaze without fear and said calmly, King Hanfang, Qianyuan Prefecture is the territory of the Qingyan dynasty, so I will naturally take it back. Shameless talk. Tuoba Lang snorted. Your biggest support should be the mysterious strong man who killed Tuoba Yuan. I heard that he is the ancestor of your Yi family, why don't you call him out and let me have a look? Someone who can instantly kill Tuoba Yuan with one move must be a strong person in the martial king realm. Tuoba Han still felt a little apprehensive. How can I, the ancestor of the Yi family, be the one you want to see whenever you want? Yi Lingtian smiled calmly. King Hanfang, stop talking nonsense. Qianyuan Prefecture is the territory of the Qingyan dynasty, take your people and get out of Qianyuan Prefecture. As soon as Yi Lingtian said these words, everyone in the Hanfang dynasty was furious. One of them, a burly young man who looked somewhat similar to Tuoba Han, swooped down from the Red Sword Gate and landed suddenly in front of Yi Lingtian. The burly young man is none other than Tuoba Kui, the second prince of Hanfang dynasty. Tuoba Kuanai is one of the top martial Dao geniuses in the Hanfang dynasty. He is less than 30 years old, and his cultivation level has reached the top level of Wuzong realm, and he is only one step away from the Venerable realm. Tuoba Kui had already heard about Yi Lingtian, the martial Dao genius of the Qingyan dynasty. Now that he saw Yi Lingtian talking shamelessly in front of his father, Tuoba Kui was the first to jump out. Yi Lingtian, who do you think you are? How dare you act arrogantly in front of my father? Come and die. Tuoba Kui smiled solemnly, and the momentum of the top martial arts master exploded. His body shot up like an arrow from the string, and blasted towards Yi Lingtian with a fierce punch. Seeing Tuoba Kui take action, Tuoba Han did not stop him. Tuoba Han was very clear about Tuoba Kui's strength. As a top-level martial venerable genius, even an ordinary junior martial venerable may not be able to easily defeat Tuoba Kui. Just in time to borrow Tuoba Kui's hand, he could force out the trump card in Yi Lingtian's hand. Your Majesty, be careful. Tuoba Kui's fierce punch immediately caused Wei Xian's expression beside Yi Lingtian to change suddenly. Just when he was about to take action, he saw Yi Lingtian raise his hand and wave lightly. Next moment, Tuoba Kui's head flew out like a kite with its string broken. On the remaining headless corpse, blood spurted out like a fountain, and then fell to the ground with a bang from midair. There was deathly silence in the sky and on the earth. Everyone's eyes were dull, as if they were seeing ghosts. Tuoba Kui, the dignified second prince of the Hanfang dynasty and a martial Dao genius at the top level of Wuzong realm, was killed by Yi Lingtian with just one move. How can this be? Shu Zian dare. It took Tuoba Han a while to come back to his senses, and he suddenly let out a frightened and angry roar. Tuoba Han never expected that Yi Lingtian could directly kill Tuoba Kui before he even had time to react. Yi Lingtian took action just now, without using any external force at all. He relied entirely on his own strength to kill Tuoba Kui instantly. Doesn't this mean that Yi Lingtian's strength has at least reached the Venerable realm? It was rumored that Yi Lingtian was just entering the Venerable Realm for the first time. Unexpectedly, he reached the Venerable Realm without saying a word. 20-year-old Wu Venerable Realm genius. Thinking of this, the murderous intent in Tuoba Han's eyes became stronger and stronger. This child is too evil and must not be allowed to grow up. Tuoba Han's murderous intent was intense, and a powerful force of Martial King was overwhelmingly pressing towards Yi Lingtian and the others. Facing Tuoba Han's powerful Martial King power, Wei Xian and others' complexions instantly turned extremely pale, as if an invisible boulder was pressing on their hearts, making them feel as if they were about to suffocate. Yi Lingtian looked calm. He just raised his hand and waved, and the powerful Martial King's power instantly dissipated without a trace. Tuoba Han, don't use the power of the Martial King to scare people. Do you really think that our Qingyan dynasty does not have a Martial King? After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he put his hands directly behind his back. Then, under countless shocked gazes, he faced the power of Tuoba Han's Martial King, as if he was stepping on an invisible ladder, stepping up step by step. Just the blink of an eye, Yi Lingtian came to the same position as Tuoba Han. Walking through the air, you broke through the Martial King realm. Tuoba Han's pupils shrank suddenly, and an incredible look of horror appeared on his face. No wonder Tuoba Yuan would fall in Qingyan King City. The call for ancestors and the help of mysterious and powerful people are all completely fictitious. Yi Lingtian himself is already a strong Martial King. Martial King. Wei Xian looked at Yi Lingtian, who was standing proudly in the air, and was dumbfounded. He has watched Yi Lingtian grow up, and naturally knows Yi Lingtian better than anyone else. If he remembered correctly, Yi Lingtian had just broken through to the Martial King realm 2 months ago, so why did he suddenly become a strong man at the Martial King realm? This moment, whether it was the martial artist from the Hanfang dynasty or the Qingyan dynasty, they all looked at Yi Lingtian with dull eyes, speechless for a long time. Martial King. Yi Lingtian actually broke through the Martial King realm. 20-year-old Martial King realm. This kid's martial Dao talent is so terrifying. Yi Lingtian, you really hide it well. Tuoba Han suppressed the fear in his heart and his eyes looked extremely gloomy, but even if you are already the Martial King, you are still not qualified to act wild in front of me. You talk so much nonsense. Since you are unwilling to leave Qianyuan Prefecture, I will beat you until you are willing to leave. After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, a long cyan sword appeared out of thin air in his palm. The bright sword energy cut through the sky and slashed straight at Tuoba Han. Boom, boom, boom. The two Martial King realm experts kept fighting each other in midair, and terrifying energy swept across all directions, causing the void within 100 feet to be turbulent. Tuoba Han became more and more frightened as he fought. After a few moves, he was cut back more than 10 steps by Yi Lingtian's sword. Feeling the churning breath in his body, Tuoba Han felt horrified and devastated. He was actually suppressed by Yi Lingtian. To know. He is a veteran Martial King who has broken through the Martial King realm for almost 20 years. Although he has always stayed at the level of the elementary Martial King, he has already reached the peak of the elementary Martial King and is only one step away from the intermediate Martial King. Even Yi Qingyan back then was only on par with him. The strength that Yi Lingtian has shown now has even surpassed that of Yi Qingyan, and it is very likely that he has reached the intermediate Martial King realm. Intermediate Martial King. How is that possible? Tuoba Han looked up at Yi Lingtian, who was standing proudly with his sword, and felt as if he had received a 10,000-point critical blow in his heart. Xuanwang's Great World Martial Dao practice. Every time it reaches a great realm, the difficulty of practice will increase exponentially. Especially when you reach the Martial King realm, it is extremely difficult to advance even a small level. That's why Tuoba Han has been stuck in the primary Martial King realm for the past 20 years. Yi Lingtian was born in his mother's womb only 20 years later, but now he has reached the intermediate Martial King realm. Isn't this so outrageous? Yi Lingtian, you and I are both in the Martial King realm. It is impossible to tell the winner in a short period of time. It is not good for anyone to continue fighting like this. How about using another method to decide the ownership of Qianyuan State? Tuoba Han took a deep breath and suddenly spoke. Facing Yi Lingtian, whose strength was comparable to the mid-level Martial King, Tuoba Han obviously didn't want to fight head-on and tried to change his strategy. What do you want? Yi Lingtian raised his eyebrows. After using the excellent Yi Zan character card, the feedback of his cultivation level allowed Yi Lingtian to reach the junior level of Martial King in one fell swoop. The last 2 days, Yi Lingtian entered Hongmeng Tower to practice whenever he had time. With the help of Hongmeng Tower's terrifying time flow rate, he could easily break through the intermediate Martial King. With his current strength, he is enough to suppress Tuo Bahan. But if Tuo Bahan really fights for his life, I'm afraid he will have to pay a heavy price. He has the Hongmeng Tower as a training cheating device, and it is easy to break through the high-level Martial King or even the top-level Martial King. By the time, killing a low-level Martial King like Tuo Bahan is as simple as squeezing an ant to death. There is no need to fight Tuo Bahan desperately now. If you and I don't take action, each side will send a martial Dao genius to fight, and the winning side will get the ownership rights of Qianyuan State for the next 3 years. What do you think? Tuo Bahan said directly. Yi Lingtian's strength completely exceeded his imagination. Tuo Bahan knew very well that if he had to fight Yi Lingtian, it would be difficult to defend Qianyuan Prefecture. But Qianyuan State's martial sovereign inheritance, he is bound to win. That's why, only Tuo Bahan proposed a bet to determine the ownership of Qianyuan Prefecture in the next 3 years. As long as he wins this duel, the next 3 years will be enough for him to turn Qianyuan State upside down and find out the martial sovereign inheritance hidden here. When Yi Lingtian's eyes were calm. In 10 days. Seeing that Yi Lingtian didn't seem to want to fight head-on, Tuo Bahan felt slightly relieved. The Qingyan dynasty was not as rich as the Hanfang dynasty. Apart from the weirdo Yi Lingtian, there were no talented people. In this gambling battle, Hanfang dynasty still has a great chance of winning. In order to ensure nothing went wrong, Tuo Bahan planned to make some preparations, so he set the time for 10 days. Okay, I'll take this bet. Yi Lingtian glanced at Tuo Bahan, and the corner of his mouth raised an imperceptible arc. If there is a gambling fight now, the Qingyan dynasty will definitely lose, and Yi Lingtian may not agree easily. But Tuo Bahan set the time at 10 days later. In 10 days, he can completely use Hongmeng Tower to create a strong martial Dao. Since Tuo Bahan wants to play, then play with him. Tuo Bahan didn't say anything, and turned back to Red Sword Pass. Father, Yi Lingtian's promise was too straightforward. There must be something fishy in it, and we have to guard against it. At this moment, the eldest prince Tuo Bazan came directly to Tuo Bahan. This is natural, otherwise I wouldn't have scheduled the fight for 10 days. Tuo Bahan's eyes flashed coldly, and he said in a cold voice, "Contact the person from Jinglei dynasty immediately, I need his help." With that help, even if Yi Lingtian still has a trump card in his hand, he will definitely win. Taiyan City, the county closest to Chijiangguan in the south of Chijiangguan. Yi Lingtian temporarily came to Taiyan City after agreeing with Tuo Bahan to have a bet 10 days later. In the city lord's palace, there is a luxurious room. Yi Lingtian sat in the room, sipping tea, and thinking about the candidates for the martial Dao duel. The talents of the Qingyan dynasty are withering. If they can't find a particularly talented candidate, they will have to let Wei Xian take the job. With Wei Xian's cultivation level as a top-level martial arts master, it is not impossible to directly reach the top-level martial arts venerable realm by being thrown into the Hongmeng Tower for 10 or 8 days. Not surprisingly, this kind of strength is completely enough to compete with the Hanfang dynasty. Based on Yi Lingtian's many years of experience in reading novels, generally when the protagonist encounters a situation that seems unlikely, an accident will probably occur. Talent. If only he could be given a martial Dao genius with a demonic talent. Ding. Because the master is thirsty for talents, he has detected the existence of the peerless immortal body, Taiyan immortal body, in the Qingyan dynasty. Conquering the Taiyan immortal body can trigger the immortal dynasty mode. At this moment, the voice of Sister Tongzi sounded in Yi Lingtian's mind. Taiyan immortal body, immortal dynasty mode. Yi Lingtian suddenly looked confused. The Taiyan immortal body is a peerless immortal body that is rare in the Xuanwang Great World. As long as you practice normally, you can reach the immortal realm above the martial emperor realm without any hindrance. Immortal dynasty mode is a mode where the system assists the master and the Qingyan dynasty to grow together. After triggering the immortal dynasty mode, every time the master conquers a peerless genius, and every time the Qingyan dynasty gains a strong man at the martial king level and above, they can earn certain points. Points can be redeemed for various Big Brother Yi fragment cards, universal fragment cards, customized exercises and martial arts, etc. The system explained to Yi Lingtian. When Yi Lingtian heard this, he was suddenly excited. I didn't expect that the Qingyan dynasty would have such a peerless immortal body. As long as the Taiyan immortal body is conquered and thrown into the Hongmeng Tower for a few days, no matter what kind of martial Dao genius the Hanfang dynasty sends, they can still be pressed to the ground and rubbed. The emergence of Immortal Dynasty mode perfectly solved his embarrassment of difficulty in gathering fragment cards to synthesize character cards. There are thousands of fantasy novels, but there are too many big names named Yi. The system randomly rewards fragment cards for signing in, and even includes the local boss of Xuanwang Great World named Yi. In the past few days, if you sign every day, there will be no duplicates in the rewarded fragment cards. When Yi Lingtian was having a headache over this, the Immortal Dynasty mode came on. She is indeed the lowly Tongzi from the series of cheating on her daughter. Gentle enough and considerate enough. When drowsiness comes, give him a pillow. Love it. Hongye Ridge. This was originally an inconspicuous mountain in Taiyan County. In recent times, Hongye Ridge has become more and more famous in Taiyan County. Because in Hongye Ridge, a sect called Zen sect emerged. The main forces in the northern wasteland are generally dominated by national families, and there are basically no sect forces. After all, there are too many uncontrollable factors in the sect. One of the main reasons why the powerful Northern Wilderness dynasty fell apart was that it allowed a sect called Tianqian sect to become powerful. That's why, even the Qingyan dynasty would not allow sect forces to exist during Yi Qingyan's reign. The Qingyan dynasty has recently been engaged in an endless battle with the Hanfang dynasty, and is unable to do anything at all. With the defeat of the Qingyan dynasty, the Hanfang dynasty defeated them all the way to the Qingyan royal city and lost control of most of the dynasty's territory. Zen Buddhism apparently developed in Hongyeling at this time. Outside Hongye Ridge, Yi Lingtian took Wei Xian slowly on the winding and rugged mountain road. Your Majesty, the Zen sect has been established in Hongye Ridge for only a few months and has never become a phenomenon. One of my subordinates can destroy the Zen sect. Why do you need to come here in person? Wei Xian followed Yi Lingtian, looking a little confused. Sect is a taboo in a country. Since this Zen sect appeared in the Qingyan dynasty, it was natural to eradicate it. Zen matters can be solved at any time, so shouldn't the most important thing now be preparing for the competition 10 days from now? I came to Hongye Ridge not just for Zen Buddhism. Yi Lingtian smiled slightly. Yi Lingtian didn't even care about a mere Zen sect. The main reason why he came to Hongye Ridge was because the system told him that the Taiyan immortal body was here. Along the way towards Hongye Ridge, Yi Lingtian and the others also met many people heading to Zen sect. Due to the Qingyan dynasty's disastrous defeat in the war with the Hanfang dynasty, large areas of territory fell and people within the dynasty were panicked. And Zen just appeared like a savior. Under the protection of the Zen sect, even if the Hanfang dynasty's army invaded the area around Hongye Ridge was almost untouched. Gradually, as the reputation of Zen spreads, more and more people hope that their children can join Zen and seek the protection of Zen. Not long after, Yi Lingtian and the two came to the gate of Zen sect. I saw a square of 100 feet in size, with dozens of Taoist figures gathered here. In the center of the square, more than a dozen teenagers, no more than 15 years old, lined up in an orderly row in front of a stone pillar made of an unknown material. Next to the stone pillar, there is a martial artist in gray standing there. Under the guidance of the old man in gray, the young man at the front walked to the stone pillar and carefully placed his palm on it. All of a sudden, a small section at the bottom of the stone pillar lit up with a faint light. Unqualified, next one. The old man in gray uttered a few cold words expressionlessly. Yi Lingtian looked at it for a while and quickly understood. This is a simple introductory test of Zen Buddhism. Just put your hand on the stone pillar to make the stone pillar shine. The height of the stone pillar's glow represents the strength of martial Tao's talent. The bottom line for Zen Buddhism to recruit disciples is that the height of the stone pillar should reach 1 foot. Under Yi Lingtian's gaze, the teenagers took part in the test in an orderly manner. Very quickly, It was the turn of a little girl about 7 or 8 years old. The little girl appeared extremely thin due to long-term malnutrition. Her facial features were exquisite, and although she was dressed in tatters, her whole body exuded an aura that was difficult to conceal. Especially those big eyes, bright and deep, as if they have looked down upon everything in the world, which should not appear on a 7 or 8-year-old kid at all. Could this little girl be the Taiyan immortal body? Yi Lingtian looked at the little girl, and his heart couldn't help but move slightly. Just as Yi Lingtian looked at the little girl also put her hand on the stone pillar. Next moment, the stone pillar trembled, and a bright light spread rapidly upward from the bottom of the stone pillar. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, ... Just the blink of an eye. The 10-foot-high stone pillars were all wrapped in a bright silver brilliance. Emperor-grade talent. Wei Xian's eyes were fixed on the stone pillar shrouded in silver light, and he couldn't help but scream. He came back to his senses and couldn't help but said to Yi Lingtian with excitement, "Your Majesty, this little girl is the legendary emperor-grade talent. We must keep her in the Qingyan dynasty." The Xuanwang Great World Martial Dao Talent Test is almost the same and divided into 10 levels. For example, if the stone pillar in the Zen test glows less than 1 foot, it means that it has no martial Dao talent and is not suitable for practice at all. It shines for 1 to 2 feet, and is basically just a martial apprentice, without much potential. If it shines for 2 to 3 feet, it means that it has the potential to reach the realm of a martial artist. And so on. Glowing from 5 to 6 feet, it represents the potential to become a strong person in the martial king realm, also known as a king-level talent. On top of king-level talents, there are naturally emperor-level talents, god-level talents, saint-grade talents, and emperor-grade talents. Emperor-grade talent. This is a peerless monster with the potential to become a martial emperor. Even looking at the entire Xuanwang Great World, it is definitely an extremely rare existence. Yi Lingtian said nothing. If he was just guessing just now he is almost certain that this little girl should be the Taiyan immortal body he is looking for. Taiyan immortal body. This is an existence that surpasses Emperor Grade's talent. It can light up the entire stone pillar instantly. Isn't that easy? Call out. While Yi Lingtian was stunned, a ray of golden light flew out from the depths of Zen and landed lightly on the stone pillar. In the golden light, there was a middle-aged man with a kind face. Metropolitan. When the black-clothed martial artist saw the middle-aged man arriving, he quickly saluted with respect. The middle-aged man is the leader of the Zen sect. The Zen master ignored the martial artist in black. His golden eyes fell directly on the little girl, and his soft and kind voice slowly sounded. "Little girl, I am Duan Wud, the leader of the Zen sect. Are you willing to worship me as your teacher?" Duan Wud's words immediately made many people around him look envious and jealous. Becoming a direct disciple of the master of the Zen sect, this little girl is undoubtedly equivalent to flying up a branch and turning into a phoenix. Seeing the leader of the Zen sect appearing in person to recruit disciples, Wei Xian couldn't hold it back and stepped forward, and cold and sharp shouts suddenly resounded. Snort. Where did you come from, a scoundrel who dared to blatantly establish a sect in the Qingyan dynasty? I think you are seeking your own death. Duan Wud was stunned by the sudden sharp shout. Soon. He locked his gaze directly on Yi Lingtian and Wei Xian, his eyes slightly cold. Who are you? You don't need to know who we are. Wei Xian stared at Duan Wud coldly. The Qingyan dynasty does not allow the sect to exist. Disband the Zen sect immediately and get out of the Qingyan dynasty. Otherwise, kill without mercy. Qingyan dynasty. Duan Wud suddenly sneered with disdain. You, the Qingyan dynasty, are in trouble, yet you still have the mind to meddle in this sect leader's business. Duan Wud was very clear about the situation of the Qingyan dynasty. 2 major martial venerables have fallen, and Qingyan King Yi Qingyan is missing and may be destroyed at any time. This is also the reason why he dared to blatantly establish Zen Buddhism. Although the war between the Hanfang dynasty and the Qingyan dynasty is over, the Zen sect will certainly not be allowed to exist, but this is not important at all. His main purpose in founding Zen Buddhism was just to improve his own strength. Even if Zen Buddhism is destroyed in the end, it doesn't matter. Not to mention, now in front of him, there is a peerless monster with emperor-grade talent. If one can swallow the bloodline of an emperor-grade talent, let alone the martial king realm, even reaching the martial sovereign realm is not impossible. By the time, in his eyes, the 10 great dynasties of the northern wasteland are nothing more than ants. Thinking of this, Duan-Wu felt hot inside. He simply ignored the presence of Yilingtian and the two of them, and looked at the little girl under the stone pillar with a kind expression. Little girl, ignore these two guys. As long as you become my personal disciple, the Qingyan dynasty will never touch you. The little girl looked at Duan-Wu calmly, and said shockingly, I don't know what will happen to the Qingyan dynasty when I become your personal disciple, but you will definitely not let me go, right? Hearing what the little girl said, Duan-Wu's expression couldn't help but change slightly. Very quickly, he showed an amiable face again. Little girl, I am not happy enough to have a direct disciple with emperor-grade talent, so how can I harm you? Yeah, the little girl's bright big eyes revealed a light that was somewhat different from what she should have at her age. A month ago, one of my brothers came to Zen Buddhism to test his talent as a king and enter Zen Buddhism to practice. If my guess is correct, he should be gone. If I enter Zen practice, the results should be the same as him, right? As soon as the little girl said this, Duan-Wu's pupils couldn't help but shrink suddenly. The little girl in front of me not only has the legendary emperor-grade talent, but her eyes are extremely terrifying, as if she can see everything. The little girl seemed to have seen through all the secrets hidden in him. Little girl, you think too much. How could your brother be gone? He is currently practicing in retreat in the Zen sect. As long as you join the Zen sect, you will see him soon. Come on, follow me into Zen practice. When Duan-Wu was speaking, he raised his hand and waved at the little girl. A golden light directly lifted the little girl's body and slowly approached Duan-Wu. Since the deception didn't work, Duan-Wu didn't bother to waste any more words. The peerless monster with emperor-grade talent can only be encountered but cannot be sought. No matter what, he will never let it go. Seeing Duan-Wu trying to use force, the little girl still looked extremely calm. She suddenly turned back and looked directly in the direction of Yilingtian, and the clear and sweet voice sounded again. King Qingyan, can I become your disciple? Yilingtian was stunned for a moment, then raised his hand and waved, and the golden light holding up the little girl shattered. Next moment, Yilingtian's figure appeared under the stone pillar, and he caught the little girl who fell from the air firmly, and then protected him behind him. He glanced at the little girl curiously and asked, how do you know I am King Qingyan? I can feel the dynasty luck of the Qingyan dynasty gathered in you, so it is not difficult to guess your identity. The little girl said softly. Originally, before this, she had not thought about exposing Duan-Wu in public, but planned to join Zen practice and then wait for an opportunity to take revenge. It wasn't until Yilingtian appeared that she changed her plan. Hearing the little girl's words, Yilingtian couldn't help but secretly clicked his tongue. It is indeed the Taiyan immortal body. Even such ethereal things as dynasty luck can be felt. Little girl, as long as you are willing, you will be my chief disciple, Yilingtian, from now on. Yilingtian looked at the little girl with a smile. He originally came here for the Taiyan immortal body, but now that this little girl with the Taiyan immortal body has taken the initiative to become a disciple, how could Yilingtian refuse? Yu Wushwang has met Master. The little girl bowed to Yilingtian as a disciple without being humble or arrogant. Ding! Congratulations, Master, for triggering Immortal Dynasty mode. Ding! Congratulations to the Master for conquering the peerless immortal body Taiyan immortal body and gaining 10,000 Immortal Dynasty points. As Yu Wushwang's apprenticeship ended, the system notification sounded again in Yilingtian's mind. He could also clearly feel that there was an additional virtual attribute panel on top of the virtual grid space of the original system. Immortal Dynasty mode, Qingyan Dynasty. Monarch, Yilingtian. Dynasty strength. First in the Martial King realm, first in the Taiyan immortal realm. Immortal Dynasty points, 11,000. Redeemable items. Random Excellent Level Fragment Card, 200 Immortal Dynasty points. Universal Excellent Level Fragment Card, 1000 Immortal Dynasty points. Just when Yilingtian was checking the Immortal Dynasty mode, Duan-Wu's cold voice rang out at an inappropriate time. King Qingyan, are you the new successor of the Qingyan dynasty, King Qingyan? Yilingtian had to temporarily give up studying the Immortal Dynasty mode, looked up at Duan-Wu, and said calmly, yes, I am the current Qingyan King Yilingtian, do you have any advice? Duan-Wu stared at Yilingtian. I don't care if you are King Qingyan or not, this little girl was the one I, Zen, fell in love with first. You can't even think of taking her away. Yi Lingtian raised his sword eyebrows. This little girl has already become my disciple. I will take my apprentice away. It seems that it is not your turn to interfere, right? Yi Lingtian, if it were the previous generation Qingyan King Yi Qingyan, I might still be afraid of you. You are just a guy with no hair, who gave you the courage to act wild in front of me. After Duan Wu finished speaking, Wu Venerable Realm's aura instantly spread from his body. Martial Venerable, feeling the aura emanating from Duan Wu, Wei Xian couldn't help but have a look of horror on his face. He originally thought, this recently established Zen sect in Hongye Ridge has no chance of becoming popular. Who would have thought that the master of Dao sect would actually be a martial venerable? Fortunately, I didn't come to Hongye Ridge alone. Otherwise, he might really fall into the hands of this Zen sect leader. Venerable Realm, Yi Lingtian looked at Duan Wu in surprise. I didn't expect that there is a martial venerable like you in the Qingyan dynasty. No wonder he dared to establish the Zen sect blatantly. Yi Lingtian, I am a martial venerable, what can your Qingyan dynasty do to fight with me? Duan Wu smiled arrogantly. Qingyan dynasty martial King Yi Qingyan disappeared, and the two martial venerables all fell. With his strength in the venerable realm, he is invincible in the Qingyan dynasty. As martial venerable amazing, Yi Lingtian curled his lips. Wu venerable realm, it's not like I haven't killed him before. Before he finished speaking, Yi Lingtian raised his hand and pointed a finger at Duan Wu's eyebrows. Act recklessly. Duan Wu snorted coldly and was about to take action. But in the next second, Duan Wu's entire body froze in place. Because of his shocking discovery, a green sword energy was nailed to the center of his eyebrows without knowing when, and it could pierce his head at any time. Duan Wu suddenly raised his head and looked at Yi Lingtian, with unconcealable panic in his eyes. You. Duan Wu never expected it. With the strength of his venerable realm, he had no power to fight back in front of Yi Lingtian. How can this be? Isn't the Qingyan dynasty about to die? Shouldn't his strength in the venerable realm be invincible in this place? Now he was beaten by a 20-year-old boy. Could it be? At the cost of being expelled from the Duan family, the heaven-defying skills he obtained by trespassing into the Duan family's forbidden area were fake, so the venerable realm he cultivated was also a fake. This moment, Duan Wu fell into deep self-doubt. Duan Wu founded the Zen sect in my territory and deceived my people. His crime should be punished and he should die. Yi Lingtian glanced at Duan Wu indifferently, then raised his hand to control the blue sword energy to finish him off. King Qingyan, you can't kill me. I am a member of the Duan King clan of the Tianqian dynasty. If you kill me, the Tianqian dynasty will definitely not let you go. Duan Wu suddenly felt like he was dead, and he quickly screamed in horror. Yi Lingtian paused his palm slightly and looked at Duan Wu with a surprised look on his face. Are you from the King clan of the Tianqian dynasty? Tianqian dynasty. Yi Lingtian is naturally not unfamiliar with this name. The predecessor of the Tianqian dynasty was the Tianqian sect, which was once famous during the Northern Wilderness dynasty, and was also the main culprit that led to the disintegration of the Northern Wilderness dynasty. Today's Tianqian dynasty is also the most powerful dynasty in the Northern Wasteland. Yi Lingtian obviously didn't expect it either. This Zen sect leader, Duan Wu, turned out to be a member of the Duan King clan of the Tianqian dynasty. Why did people from the Duan King clan of the Tianqian dynasty come to the Qingyan dynasty to found the Zen sect? Could it be? Is the Tianqian dynasty already planning the entire northern wasteland? Yes, I am a direct descendant of the King clan of the Tianqian dynasty. Seeing that Yi Lingtian seemed to be shocked by his identity, Duan Wu's expression became much calmer. He looked down at Yi Lingtian condescendingly. King Qingyan, the situation of the Qingyan dynasty is already in danger. If you offend the Tianqian dynasty again, you should know what the consequences will be. Are you threatening me? Yi Lingtian raised his eyebrows. Duan Wu said calmly, I'm just stating a fact. Yi Lingtian flicked his finger, and the green sword energy that was nailed to Duan Wu's eyebrows pierced through Duan Wu's head, leaving a big bloody hole. The next second, Duan Wu's body fell directly from the stone pillar. Yi Lingtian glanced at Duan Wu, who had eyes wide open and was still staring blankly, and couldn't help but curled his lips. Who do you think you are, you dare to threaten me? Wei Xian, I'll leave this to you to deal with the aftermath. I'll leave first. After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he quickly walked away with Yu Wushwang beside him. And at the moment Yi Lingtian left, an ancient jade with the word Duan engraved on Duan Wu's body was broken into pieces silently. Tian City, the back garden of the city lord's mansion. Yi Lingtian lay lazily on an exquisite wooden chair, sipping tea and basking in the sun, feeling very comfortable. Ever since he went to Hongye Ridge to accept Yu Wushwang as his disciple, Yi Lingtian gave Yu Wushwang a high-level technique and sent him to the Hongmeng Tower to practice, and he became more relaxed. As for the affairs of the Qingyan dynasty, Yi Lingtian left almost all matters to Wei Xian and others, while he himself became the hands-off shopkeeper. In a fantasy world, the strong are respected. As long as he is strong enough, he can suppress everything, and he doesn't have to worry about losing power. Sister Tongzi, please sign in. Yi Lingtian took a sip from the teacup and prepared to receive today's sign-in reward. Ding! The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the owner for getting 10 Yi Chen excellent grade fragment cards. Finally a repeat. Yi Lingtian was shocked and quickly opened the system virtual panel. Transmigrate has been in this world for more than 10 days, and Yi Lingtian has signed in and obtained more than 10 different fragment cards of the boss named Yi. Among them, the largest number is the fragment card of Yi Chen obtained for the second time. The World of Swordsmanship. Excellent level Yi Chen 20/30. When necessary, he can use Immortal Dynasty points to exchange for 10 Universal Excellent fragment cards to synthesize excellent Yi Chen character cards. There is food in the warehouse, so don't panic. With this trump card, Yi Lingtian has more confidence. It's been 9 days since that little girl Yu Wushwang entered Hongmeng Tower. I don't know how her cultivation is going. Yi Lingtian murmured to himself, then summoned the Hongmeng Tower and released Yu Wushwang from the Hongmeng Tower. Master. Yu Wushwang looked at Yi Lingtian in front of her and bowed slightly. After practicing in Hongmeng Tower for a period of time, Yu Wushwang's whole person has undergone great changes. Her eyes were cold, her skin was like cream, and her whole body exuded an aloof aura, like a little fairy walking out of a painting. Wushwang, how have you been practicing these days? Yi Lingtian asked curiously. 9 days outside, 90 years inside the Hongmeng Tower. Yu Wushwang, who possesses the Taiyan immortal body, should be able to reach the top level of martial venerable, right? Yu Wushwang didn't speak, and an aura of martial king realm instantly emanated from her body. Feeling the aura emanating from Yu Wushwang, Yi Lingtian jumped up from his chair in shock. How did you break through the martial king realm? In the Xuanwang Great World, in addition to talent, martial Dao practice requires another very important thing, and that is the martial Dao technique. For example, the advanced skills he gave Yu Wushwang can only be practiced to the venerable realm. If you want to further break through the martial king realm, you need to change the king level skills. King level skills are very rare. In the entire Qingyan dynasty, there was only one king level technique, and that was the Qingyang secret scroll passed down by Yi Qingyan. Because this technique was not suitable for women to practice, Yi Lingtian did not pass it on to Yu Wushwang. Yi Lingtian originally planned to use the Immortal Dynasty points to customize a set of exercises for Yu Wushwang when he had more Immortal Dynasty points. Who would have thought that Yu Wushwang could directly reach the martial king realm by relying on a high-level skill? This is simply outrageous. I practiced to the top-level martial venerable very early. I found that this technique could not break through the martial king realm. I kept waiting for the master to get me out of the tower. In the end, I got bored of waiting. So I just used this technique I created a technique that was suitable for me to practice, and then I achieved a breakthrough. Yu Wushwang said lightly. Yi Lingtian's whole body was numb. It is indeed the Taiyan immortal physique that is more terrifying than the emperor-grade talent. It doesn't matter if your cultivation speed is ridiculously fast. If you don't have any skills, you can still create your own skills. This guy is even more stupid than him. Chapter 11. Yi Lingtian no longer knew what to say. With his body, he is still a genius with king-level talents. He has reached the Wuzong realm before he was 20 years old. But there is also a gap between geniuses. Compared with Yu Wushwang, the lunar immortal body, king-level talents are no different from scum. Not bad, keep up the good work. Yi Lingtian patted Yu Wushwang's head, obviously very satisfied with his chief disciple. Yu Wushwang nodded and flattered a little. This is all due to master's good teaching. Quote. Yi Lingtian's mouth twitched. I just threw a book of exercises to you, and then threw you into the Hongmeng Tower to let loose. How the hell can this be considered a good teaching? However, Yu Wushwang was able to break through to the martial king realm, which was an unexpected surprise. The next gambling battle with Hanfang dynasty is settled. He waved his hand. Yi Lingtian let Yu Wushwang play by herself and continued to lie down drinking tea and sunbathing. In such a leisurely day, the day passed quickly. Early the next morning, Yi Lingtian took Yu Wushwang and others to the outside of Red Sword Pass. Because today is the day for the duel with Tuoba Han. Your Majesty, are you sure you want to send this girl Wushwang to compete with the Hanfang dynasty? How about I do it? Wei Xian stood behind Yi Lingtian, glanced at Yu Wushwang beside Yi Lingtian, and couldn't help but whisper. Yu Wushwang, who has the emperor-grade talent, and Martial Dao's talent are indeed awesome. But the problem is, Yu Wushwang's practice of Martial Dao takes no more than 10 days. No matter how great his talent is, it is impossible for him to become stronger than a top-level martial arts sect like him in just 10 days, right? What are you doing up there? Yi Lingtian glanced at Wei Xian and said with a look of disgust on his face, there are only 2 venerable realm warriors in the Hanfang dynasty. If you come here, aren't you going to give the Hanfang dynasty their heads? It seems that I have to take some time to throw Wei Xian into the Hongmeng Tower to practice. Wei Xian has always been Yi Lingtian's confidant, loyal to him, and very easy to use, making him a very qualified tool man. The only drawback is that the top-level martial arts masters are a bit weak. Wei Xian needs to be promoted. Quote. Wei Xian was speechless. All right, I admit that I am a bit of a weakling as a top-level martial arts sect, and a fight with the Hanfang dynasty would be a total loss of life. But if you let a little girl like Yu Wushwang take over, isn't that just like giving someone a head? Rumble. Just as Yi Lingtian and the others were talking, the city gate of Qijian Pass slowly opened. Immediately, I saw Tuoba Han slowly walking out with a group of people from the Hanfang dynasty. Tuoba Han raised his head and glanced at Yi Lingtian. Yi Lingtian, you came quite early. Yi Lingtian said calmly, if you win this gambling battle sooner, I will be able to recover Qianyuan Prefecture sooner. Snort. If you want to win this gambling battle, you have to see if your Qingyan dynasty has this ability. Tuoba Han snorted, and then looked at the silver-haired young man next to him very politely. Master Yu, I'm sorry to trouble you. Rest assured. The silver-haired young man nodded arrogantly, and immediately took a step forward, and the aura of Wu Venerable Realm filled the air instantly. Yi Lingtian stared at the silver-haired young man and narrowed his eyes slightly. Aren't you from the Hanfang dynasty? Yi Lingtian is still very clear about the situation of Hanfang dynasty. Although the Hanfang dynasty has a stronger foundation than the Qingyan dynasty, it is absolutely impossible to have a martial arts genius like the silver-haired young man. In this competition, you don't seem to have stipulated that people must be from their respective dynasties, right? The silver-haired young man stood with his hands behind his hands and said with an arrogant expression, Lei Yu of the Thunder dynasty went to fight on behalf of the Hanfang dynasty. Who in your Qingyan dynasty dares to fight with me? Hearing what the silver-haired young man said, the expressions of Wei Xian and others couldn't help but change suddenly. Thunder dynasty Lei Yu. The Thunder dynasty is one of the top 3 dynasties among the 10 dynasties in the northern wasteland. This Lei Yu is a famous emperor-level genius of Jinglei dynasty. He broke through the venerable realm at the age of 25. Even if we look at the entire northern wilderness territory, Martial Dao's talent is comparable to that of Lei Yu, and only one person can do so. Hanfang dynasty actually invited this person here. In order to win this battle, Hanfang dynasty really spent a lot of money. Your Majesty, why don't we just forget about this fight and let's grow up for a period of time and then take back Qianyuan Prefecture? Many senior officials of the Qingyan dynasty couldn't help but persuade Yi Lingtian. In this fight, the Qingyan dynasty had no chance of winning. Now the Hanfang dynasty has invited the imperial geniuses from the Thunder dynasty to help. Is this a piece of cake? An imperial genius is nothing more than that. Yi Lingtian curled his lips, then looked at Yu Wushwang beside him, and said with a smile, "Wushwang, I'll leave this guy to you." "Master, don't worry." Yu Wushwang nodded and came to Lei Yu as if taking a leisurely stroll. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Everyone in the Hanfang dynasty was stunned when they saw that the Qingyan dynasty actually sent a 7 or 8-year-old girl to fight. Let a 7 or 8-year-old girl face a venerable realm emperor-level genius like Lei Yu. Isn't this nonsense? Could it be? The Qingyan dynasty knew that they would lose this battle, so they gave up the struggle. Little sister, don't tell me that the Qingyan dynasty wants to send you to compete with me. Lei Yu looked at Yu Wushwang in front of him and frowned slightly. Let the Qingyan dynasty send someone else, I don't want to bully the little girl. Yu Wushwang was too lazy to speak. She moved her little hand towards the void above Lei Yu's head, and a crystal-clear sword light fell down. This sword light seemed ordinary. But only Lei Yu, who was enveloped by the sword light, felt that his whole person seemed to be enveloped by a shadow of death. How is it possible? Lei Yu's heart was full of souls. How come this little girl of 7 or 8 years old in front of me feels more powerful than him, the emperor-level genius who wields the venerable realm? Thunder King Fist. Lei Yu exploded with all his strength, and the bright thunder suddenly turned into a terrifying thunder fist, facing the falling sword light. Only, under Yu Wushwang's sword light, Lei Yu used all his strength to strike, but it was as fragile as paper and collapsed at the first touch. Just in the blink of an eye, the sword light shattered all power and landed on Lei Yu's body. Boom! There was only a loud noise, and a huge pit measuring several feet in size suddenly appeared on the ground. Lei Yu, the emperor-level genius of the Thunder Dynasty, was lying in the huge pit dripping with blood, with no trace of life in his body. The imperial genius of Jinglei Dynasty, that's it. Yu Wushwang glanced at Lei Yu's body, and then turned around and walked towards Yilingtian under countless almost dull eyes. However, the moment Yu Wushwang turned around, an extremely terrifying pressure from the martial king suddenly spread across the world. "Ah, you little fool, how dare you kill me, the royal genius of Jinglei Dynasty. If I, mysterious light, don't break your bones into pieces and burn your corpse today, it's hard to eliminate the hatred in my heart." The terrifying martial king's power fills the world. A tall figure bathed in silver thunder light suddenly appeared above Yu Wushwang's head like a thunder god coming to the world. His silver thunder eyes stared coldly at Yu Wushwang below, as if looking at a dead person. Ray Mysterious Light, one of the 4 war kings of Jinglei Dynasty besides Jinglei King Lei Xuantong, he ranks first among the 4 war kings of Jinglei Dynasty, and his cultivation level has reached the high-level martial king. It can be said, even if we look at the entire northern wasteland, Mysterious Light's strength ranks among the top 10 among the many martial king realm experts. Looking at the thunderous Mysterious Light with murderous intent, everyone around could not help but feel frightened. No one could have imagined it. Lei Yu, the majestic genius of the Jinglei Dynasty, whose cultivation reached the venerable realm, was actually killed by a 7 or 8-year-old little girl. 7 or 8 years old. No matter how talented a genius is, 7 or 8 years old is just the age when he has just come into contact with martial Dao practice. It is impossible to kill the venerable realm instantly, right? This guy riding a horse is outrageous. Lei Yu was instantly killed by this girl Wushwang. Wei Xian's eyes widened and he couldn't believe his eyes. Except for Yilingtian, he definitely understood Yu Wushwang best among all the people present. 10 days ago, when Yilingtian went to Hongye Ridge to accept Yu Wushwang as his disciple, Yu Wushwang had never been exposed to martial Dao practice. In just 10 days, Yu Wushwang has the strength to instantly kill venerable realm. Even if it is the legendary emperor grade talent, it is not so incredible, right? While Wei Xian was shocked, he also had to worry about the situation of the Qingyan dynasty. Yu Wushwang kills Lei Yu in an instant. Thunder Dynasty's Thunder Mysterious Light will definitely not give up, and Tuo Bahan is watching eagerly from the side. 2 powerful men in the martial king realm. Qingyan Dynasty, there will be trouble next. Compared to the gloomy Qingyan Dynasty, the Hanfang Dynasty was secretly happy. Although the Qingyan Dynasty created a very evil little girl and killed Lei Yu with one move, almost shocking their eyes, the Qingyan Dynasty will definitely bear the wrath of the Thunder Dynasty. Now that Mysterious Light, the high-level martial king, is taking action, Yilingtian may not be able to resist. They have every chance to kill Yi Lingtian and destroy the Qingyan dynasty in one fell swoop. You deserve to die. Lei Mysterious Light looked down at Yu Wushwang with indifferent eyes, stretched out a finger and pressed it in the air at Yu Wushwang. Next moment, a 10-meter-long thunder finger, carrying terrifying thunder power, pressed down on Yu Wushwang like a mountain bearing down on top. Lei Mysterious Light originally thought, with Lei Yu's talent and strength, except for those few emperor-level geniuses in the entire northern wasteland, he is almost invincible among his peers. But I didn't expect it. The small Qingyan dynasty actually has such a villain. At the age of 7 or 8, he already has the strength to kill Lei Yu in an instant. He was careless and let Lei Yu die here. The talent of this little girl from the Qingyan dynasty, Martial Dao, is many times more terrifying than the imperial genius. Once it grows up, it will definitely be able to change the pattern of the northern wasteland. Publicly or privately, he will kill this little girl today. Facing Lei Mysterious Light's finger, Yu Wushwang's face was calm. Just when she was about to take action, a green sword energy flew past her head and directly chopped the giant thunder finger into 2 pieces. Immediately, I saw Yi Lingtian's figure rising into the air and quickly arriving in front of Mysterious Light. His faint voice resounded throughout the world. Mysterious Light, if you want to touch someone from my Qingyan dynasty, it depends on whether I agree or not. Looking at Yi Lingtian in front of him, Lei Mysterious Light couldn't help but condense his eyes slightly. Are you Yi Lingtian, the new king of the Qingyan dynasty? The strength of the Qingyan dynasty ranks among the bottom 3 among the 10 major dynasties in the northern wasteland. Now a little girl of 7 or 8 years old killed Lei Yu in an instant. The Qingyan king in front of him is only about 20 years old, but his cultivation has already reached the intermediate martial king realm. What happened to the Qingyan dynasty? There are so many monsters. Thunder Mysterious Light, Martial Dao fight, life and death are determined by destiny. Yi Lingtian looked at Lei Mysterious Light indifferently. You, a high-level martial king, are bullying a little girl by attacking a 7 or 8-year-old girl, right? Brother Mysterious Light, the Qingyan dynasty killed Lei Yu in front of you. It seems that they didn't take the Thunder dynasty into consideration at all. I am willing to help you to kill King Qingyan, destroy the Qingyan dynasty, and avenge Master Lei Yu. Tuoba Han came through the air and stood side by side with Mysterious Light. Tuoba Han, it was you who proposed the decision of the Qianyuan prefecture through competition. Now that your Hanfang dynasty has lost, are you going to go back on your word? Yi Lingtian glanced at Tuoba Han with some disdain. Even if I go back on my word, what can you do? Tuoba Han smiled ferociously. Yi Lingtian, this red sword pass is where you will be buried today. Team up with high-level martial king like Mysterious Light. Why should he be afraid of a mere Yi Lingtian? Yi Lingtian didn't even bother to look at Tuoba Han. He looked directly at Lei Mysterious Light and said coldly, Thunder Mysterious Light, the matter between the Qingyan dynasty and the Hanfang dynasty has nothing to do with your Jinglei dynasty. It may be too late for you to leave now. Kill the emperor-level genius of my Jinglei dynasty, I, Mysterious Light, will kill him. Lei Mysterious Light's indifferent voice fell, and the powerful power of the high-level martial king also burst out without reservation. Tuoba Han on the side also exploded with all his strength. 2 terrifying martial king offensives surged toward Yi Lingtian. Master, let me help you. Seeing this, Yu Wushwang flew to help Yi Lingtian. No need, just watch from the sidelines. My Yi family doesn't have many things, it just has a lot of ancestors. Watch me summon the ancestors and kill them. Yi Lingtian, ancestor of the Yi family, invites you to come. When Yi Lingtian spoke, he directly exchanged 10 universal excellent level fragment cards, synthesized them into excellent level Yi Chen character cards, and then chose to use them. Next moment, Yi Lingtian felt like he had the power of Emperor Realm again. Faced with the combined attack of the 2 martial kings, Mysterious Light and Tuoba Han, Yi Lingtian just moved his mind. The 2 overwhelming attacks did not even come close to the range of 3 feet around him. It was like a stone sinking into the sea, and instantly dissipated into nothingness. Seeing this strange scene, Lei Guangxuan and Tuoba Han's pupils couldn't help but shrink suddenly. The 2 of them jointly attacked this attack, and even the top-level martial king could not resolve it as lightly as Yi Lingtian. Yi Lingtian's current state seemed to be abnormally strong. Could it be? Did this guy really summon a powerful ancestor? Yi Lingtian, please stop pretending to be a fool in front of me. I really don't believe that you have any ancestors of the Yi family. Tuoba Han's eyes were changing. He raised his palm, and a long black knife exuding a cold aura emerged out of thin air. Brother Mysterious Light, this guy is a bit weird, don't hold back anymore, let's kill him together. Tuoba Han had a murderous intention. Yi Lingtian's strength is increasing at a terrifying speed. Now that he has taken action today, he has no way out. Be sure to join forces with Mysterious Light to kill Yi Lingtian. Otherwise, once Lei Mysterious Light leaves, life between him and the Hanfang dynasty may not be easy. Tuoba Han used all his strength to activate the martial Dao true energy in his body, and poured it crazily towards the black long knife in his hand, preparing to open it directly. At this time, Yi Lingtian's golden eyes suddenly shot towards Tuoba Han. The next second, Tuoba Han only felt that his whole body was imprisoned by an invisible force. No matter how hard he struggled, it was difficult to shake this power. Under this power, he couldn't even speak. What frightened Tuoba Han the most was, he felt an indestructible force spreading upward from the soles of his feet, causing his body to continue to be annihilated. Very quickly, his soles and legs turned into nothingness under this power. Then comes the body, hands, and head. It's only a few breaths of time. Tuoba Han just disappeared in midair, as if he had never appeared before. That moment, there was deathly silence in the sky and on the earth. Everyone looked at this horrifying scene in front of them as if they had seen a ghost and couldn't believe their eyes. Even Mysterious Light, who is a high-level martial king, can't help but feel numbness in his scalp at this moment. Although Han Feng King Tuoba Han is only a junior martial king, he is also a genuine martial king realm powerhouse. But Yi Lingtian just glanced at Tuoba Han. Tuoba Han was like water droplets illuminated by the sun, evaporating out of thin air at a speed visible to the naked eye. Isn't this so outrageous? Kings, father, everyone on the Hanfang dynasty side came to their senses, their faces were pale, as if they were mourning for their heirs. They originally thought, Tuoba Han and Lei Mysterious Light teamed up to kill Yi Lingtian with ease. Who knew that Tuoba Han would disappear so inexplicably in the blink of an eye? But, not everyone in the Hanfang dynasty was devastated by Tuoba Han's death. For example, the eldest prince Tuoba Zan. Although he looked sad on the outside, as if his father had died, he was already happy in his heart. Tuoba Han is gone. The biggest competitor, the second prince Tuoba Kui, is gone too. Isn't it a matter of course that he will succeed King Hanfang next? Tuoba Zan suppressed the excitement in his heart and couldn't help but look into the air. Yi Lingtian's current situation is very strange. Even the Thunder Dynasty's Thunder Mysterious Light may not be able to stop it. And, with Tuoba Han's lessons learned, Lei Mysterious Light probably won't foolishly fight Yi Lingtian. This guy is probably going to run away. Once Mysterious Light runs away and Yi Lingtian wants to kill them, will it be as simple as chopping melons and vegetables? The situation is not good. It's better to run first out of respect. When Tuoba Zan thought of this, he quickly winked at his two confidants secretly, and then slipped away without leaving a trace. Hanfang King Tuoba Han is just gone. On the side of the Qingyan dynasty, Wei Xian and others were shocked and confused as much as they wanted. Their king calls his ancestors again. Last time, Hanfang dynasty marshal Venerable Tuoba Yuan attacked Qingyan King City. Yi Lingtian summoned his ancestors to kill Tuoba Yuan instantly, resolving the crisis in Qingyan dynasty. Now, Yi Lingtian summoned his ancestors again and instantly defeated Tuoba Han, who was in the martial king realm. Is this really their Qingyan dynasty? The ancestors come one after another, and each one is more awesome than the last. Why does it feel like their king has changed his ancestor? You. Who are you? Lei Mysterious Light stared at Yi Lingtian solemnly, as if he were facing a formidable enemy and did not dare to be careless in the slightest. Kill with one look, and the one he killed was a strong man in the martial king realm. Such unpredictable methods may have completely surpassed the level of the martial king. Yi Lingtian said nothing, and his eyes were directly locked on Mysterious Light. All of a sudden, Lei Mysterious Light felt as if someone had cast a immobilization spell on him, making it difficult to move at all. Qingyan King, I was wrong. I am willing to leave here and promise not to interfere in the affairs between the Qingyan dynasty and the Hanfang dynasty. Lei Mysterious Light suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, and quickly screamed in horror. Powerful. Yi Lingtian at this moment is so powerful that he probably has at least the power of the martial sovereign realm. Lei Mysterious Light is very clear. If he doesn't ask for mercy again, Tuo Bahan will be a lesson to him. Late. I gave you a chance to live, but it's a pity that you didn't cherish it. Yi Lingtian's indifferent voice fell, and the immortal sword intent locked on Mysterious Light began to annihilate Mysterious Light's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. No. Lei Mysterious Light looked desperate and frightened. But as soon as the word, no, came out of his mouth, his whole body was completely transformed into nothingness under the indestructible immortal sword power. After Hanfang King Tuo Bahan, the high-level martial King Thunder of Thunder Dynasty, Mysterious Light, is also destroyed in form and spirit. This moment, all the people from Hanfang Dynasty looked at Yi Lingtian with eyes full of despair and fear. Even high-level martial king like Mysterious Light were instantly killed. What can they, the Hanfang Dynasty, do to resist? The Hanfang Dynasty is over. After killing two martial kings lightly, Yi Lingtian was about to clean up the mess, but suddenly he sensed something. In Hongye Ridge, there is an aura of martial king realm. Yi Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly. Duan Wud, who founded the Zen sect in Hongye Ridge, was born in the king clan of the Tianqian dynasty. It seems that the Tianqian dynasty should already know about Duan Wud's death. This martial king who suddenly appeared in Hongye Ridge is most likely from the Tianqian dynasty. Wei Xian, I'll leave the rest of the matter to you. I'll leave Wushuang to assist you. After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and flew away in the direction of Hongye Ridge. With the help of the excellent Yi Chen character card, Yi Lingtian appeared in the sky above Hongye Ridge in just a few breaths. Below, I saw an old man in gray robes exuding the aura of the martial king, standing outside the abandoned Zen mountain gate, his face looking extremely ugly. Duan Wud is really dead. No matter who dares to kill my Duan King clan, I will make them pay a heavy price. The gray-robed old man's tone was solemn. Duan Wud is not only a direct descendant of the Duan family, but also a very important part of his master's plan. Now that Duan Wud is dead, how can the old man in gray robe not be angry? However, just when the old man in gray robe finished speaking, a faint voice suddenly came from the sky. I killed the man. The Qingyan dynasty does not allow sects to exist. Duan Wud established the Zen sect here. Naturally, I will destroy him. Is there any problem? The faint voice caused the gray-robed old man's expression to change instantly. He looked up suddenly. I saw a man in green robe standing proudly in midair. Are you King Qingyan? The gray-robed old man's pupils couldn't help but shrink suddenly. In the territory of the Qingyan dynasty, whoever claims to be the king is most likely the Qingyan king. Only, isn't the king of Qingyan dynasty Yi Qingyan? When did you become a young man in his 20s? The change of dynasty kings is no small matter. It seems that during the period of his retreat, the situation in the northern wasteland should have changed a lot. Give you a chance to live. Yi Lingtian looked down at the gray-robed old man calmly. Tell me, what is the purpose of your Tianqian dynasty in letting Duan Wud found the Zen sect in the Qingyan dynasty? He, King Qingyan, you have such a loud voice. The gray-robed old man smiled coldly. Even Yi Qingyan, the founding king of your Qingyan dynasty, is not qualified to speak like this in front of me, let alone you. Kneel down and speak to me. Yi Lingtian's face was expressionless, and he raised his hand and pressed lightly on the gray-robed old man. Plop. Before the old man in gray robe could react, he was forced to kneel on the ground by an incomparable force, unable to move at all. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. The gray-robed old man's eyes were dull. His face was confused, and his mind was filled with big question marks. Who I am? Where do I come from? Where am I going? The old man in gray robe felt that his martial Dao heart completely collapsed at this moment. He is a strong martial king, and he has just broken through to the mid-level martial king not long ago, and he is ranked high in the entire northern wasteland. But I didn't expect it. The young King Qingyan in front of him was made to kneel down with a flip of his hands. How is this possible? Even if he is a top-level martial king, you can't just kneel down just because you want him to, right? I will give you 10 breaths to answer my questions honestly, and I may consider sparing you once. Yi Lingtian's figure floated down and landed directly in front of the gray-robed old man. King Qingyan, Duan Wu founded the Zen sect in the Qingyan dynasty and has nothing to do with the Tianqian dynasty. The gray-robed old man didn't have the arrogance of a strong man in the martial king realm, so he quickly told Yi Lingtian everything he knew. Fantasy Great World, Martial King Realm is a hurdle. Breaking through the Martial King Realm and the Martial Sovereign Realm requires not only extraordinary talent, but also corresponding Imperial-level skills. Imperial-level skills are extremely rare in the Northern Wasteland. The Tianqian sect, the predecessor of the Tianqian dynasty, had a heaven-defying technique with mysterious origins, which at least reached the Imperial level. Because of its special cultivation method, no one has ever succeeded. Anyone who practices this technique is either crazy or obsessed with it. Later, this technique is listed as a forbidden technique by Tianqian sect. Today's King Tianqian, in order to break through the martial sovereign realm, naturally came up with the idea of this technique. He has been trying to improve this technique, and Duan Wu was the test subject selected by King Tianqian. Yi Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly. The Tianqian dynasty truly overturned the existence of the Northern Wilderness dynasty. This Tianqian king is really ruthless. In order to break through the martial sovereign realm, he even used his own direct bloodline as a guinea pig. King Qingyan, I have told you what I know, can you let me go? The old man in grey robe answered Yi Lingtian's question honestly and couldn't help but ask cautiously. Certainly. Yi Lingtian raised his hand and looked at the grey-robed old man with a smile. I always keep my word, you can go. As soon as Yi Lingtian said these words, the old man in grey robe only felt that the terrifying power oppressing him instantly dissipated without a trace. The old man in grey robe suddenly felt as if he had been granted amnesty. Without any hesitation, he quickly turned into a stream of light and fled hastily like a bereaved dog. Only, the grey-robed old man had just flown less than 100 meters away when another terrifying force came down from the sky above his head. Boom! The old man in grey robe had no resistance at all, and was directly knocked back to the ground from midair by this force, and half knelt on the ground again. The huge impact caused the old man in grey robe to kneel on the ground, creating a huge pit about 10 feet deep. Even if he is a strong person in the martial king realm, this kneeling almost caused the grey-robed old man's body to fall apart. King Qingyan, you are such a despicable villain, you actually went back on your word. The old man in grey robe suddenly turned around and looked at Yi Lingtian, who was slowly walking towards him, with a look of shock and anger. How could be? I have always been upright, and I will keep my word. If I promise to let you go once, I will let you go once. Yi Lingtian looked at the old man in grey robe with a smile, spread his hands and said, unfortunately, I tell you that this is the second time you have fallen into my hands. I at %. The old man in grey robe only felt 10,000 grass and mud horses galloping through his heart. You just let me run less than 100 meters. Does this count as letting me go? The most annoying thing is, this guy just goes back on his word and brazenly claims that he is above board and will do what he says. God is so upright, and he will practice his word. After all, you are also the king of the Qingyan dynasty, why are you so shameless? King Qingyan, I am the martial king of the Tianqian dynasty. You have already killed Duan Wu. If you kill me again, you will definitely fight to the death with the Tianqian dynasty. The old man in grey robe suppressed the fear in his heart and said in a deep voice, as long as you let me go, I can guarantee you that King Tianqian will never know that you killed Duan Wu. Finished. Then go die. Yi Lingtian had no expression on his face, and then he flicked his finger. PFF'd. The golden sword light pierced through the head of the grey-robed old man. The body of the grey-robed old man instantly transformed from top to bottom into a ball of blood mist at a speed visible to the naked eye, and dispersed in the air. Get rid of the old man in grey robe. The use time of the excellent Yi Chen character card has quickly come to an end. Ding. The master uses the excellent Yi Chen character card to finish, and a large amount of the character card's cultivation level will be returned. Ding. Congratulations to the owner for getting a chance to draw a random item related to this character. As the familiar sound sounded in his mind, Yi Lingtian's cultivation skyrocketed again. Just for a moment, Yi Lingtian directly surpassed the high-level Martial King and broke through the top-level Martial King in one fell swoop. Ding! It was found that the Master's Qingyang Secret Scroll is a king-level skill and cannot break through the Martial Sovereign realm. The system automatically replaces the Master's advanced skill. After reaching the top level of cultivation, Martial King, the system sounded another beep. Immediately afterwards, Yi Lingtian felt that the Qingyang Secret Scroll he had practiced had been replaced by a mysterious technique that was many times more powerful. And his cultivation level continued to skyrocket. Elementary Martial Sovereign, Intermediate Martial Sovereign, Advanced Martial Sovereign, Top-Level Martial Sovereign. The large amount of cultivation returned by using the character card for the second time allowed Yi Lingtian to break through the top level of Martial Sovereign in one fell swoop. Tisk tisk. This Sister Tongzi is simply my caring little cotton-padded jacket. Yi Lingtian was amazed in his heart. Originally, when he reached the top level of Martial King, Yi Lingtian thought that he might be stuck because of the king-level skills he practiced. Who knew that Tongzi's sister automatically changed him to a more advanced technique? Then he went all out to break through the top-level Martial Sovereign. Sister Tongzi, what technique did you replace for me? Yi Lingtian asked curiously. The name of this technique is very simple and crude. It is called the strongest Emperor grade technique. Anyway, it is the strongest among the Emperor grade techniques. The most powerful Emperor grade technique. Yi Lingtian's head was suddenly filled with black lines. In his previous life, he had read 300 fantasy novels. Generally, the names of those awesome skills in novels are very high-end, classy, and powerful. How come the names of his exercises are so random? The most powerful Emperor grade technique. This thing sounds like it was bought from a roadside stall. And the words are all printed wrong. Is the technique that Sister Tongzi replaced for him really reliable? Don't worry, Master. The current strongest Emperor grade technique is a new version improved after the death of 2 hosts. The probability of problems is less than 1,000th. Sensing Yi Lingtian's thoughts, Sister Tongzi couldn't help but offer words of comfort. Yi Lingtian, I've become a 3rd-generation guinea pig, and you still let me feel at ease. I'm worried about the hammer. Yi Lingtian was a little helpless. I thought that the bound miner system would be my caring little cotton jacket, but who knew that she would actually have the potential of a black-hearted little witch? Faced with such a system, Yi Lingtian could only accept his fate. Underage. It's normal to make some mistakes. In the world of his previous life, minors who committed murder would still be protected by the law. Sister Tongzi, give me a lottery. Shaking his head, Yi Lingtian was too lazy to dwell on this issue and started to draw rewards. A virtual disc instantly appeared in front of Yi Lingtian, showing items related to the character Yi Chen. Space-time swordsmanship, Jianyu Taishu, Supreme Dao Fruit, Immortal Sword Intent, ... Ding! Congratulations to the Master for obtaining the Immortal Sword Intent. After a lottery, Yi Lingtian got the Immortal Sword Intention, one of Yi Chen's 5 Supreme Sword Intentions. Immortal Sword Intent. Even among the many sword intentions of the sword, that is one of the most domineering sword intentions. Indestructible, immortal and immortal. Mastering the Immortal Sword Intention, coupled with the cultivation of the top-level Martial Sovereign, Yi Lingtian has the confidence to stand up even when facing the Martial God. It can be said, with Yi Lingtian's current strength, he is absolutely invincible in the northern wasteland where even Martial Sovereign does not have it. Next, it's time to completely deal with the Hanfang dynasty. Feeling the powerful power in his body, Yi Lingtian's eyes flashed and he rose directly into the sky, heading towards the direction of the red sword light. Tianqian Dynasty, Royal Palace. A magnificent palace with a Zen-like layout. A middle-aged man who looked to be in his 50s sat high on the throne in the center of the hall. Although the middle-aged man has an ordinary face and nothing special, his eyes are long, narrow and deep. He just sat there quietly, his whole body exuding a powerful aura that made people dare not look at him. Under the strong aura of the middle-aged man, even an ordinary Martial King realm expert will feel a great sense of oppression when they are in the hall. The middle-aged man is none other than the king of the Tianqian dynasty, Duan Jingcan. In front of Duan Jingcan, an old man in his 60s dressed as a monk stood there. This old monk is Master Yiyang, the host of Tianqian Temple. Decades ago, the Northern Wilderness dynasty fell apart, and the Tianqian sect established the Tianqian dynasty. But, however, the core of Tianqian sect was preserved by the Tianqian dynasty and turned into Tianqian Temple. It was in charge of the Tianqian dynasty's intelligence agency and cultivated strong men for the Tianqian dynasty. At this moment, Duan Jingcan and Master Yiyang did not speak, and there was a dead silence in the hall. Master Yiyang, what do you think about this matter? I don't know how long it took. Duan Jingcan finally broke the silence in the hall. 10 days ago, Duan Jingcan sensed that his chosen guinea pig suddenly died, so he sent a mid-level martial king to investigate the situation. But I didn't expect it. This mid-level martial king also died not long ago. Tianqian Temple has been paying attention to the war between the Qingyan dynasty and the Hanfang dynasty. Based on the information we have found, combined with some fragmentary records in ancient books, we can conclude that the Qingyan dynasty is adjacent to the Qianyuan prefecture of the Hanfang dynasty. It is not simple. It is very likely that the Yuanwang inheritance exists in this place. Master Yiyang spoke slowly. The inheritance of Emperor Yuan. When Duan Jingcan heard this, his pupils shrank suddenly. Emperor Yuan. This is a legendary figure who existed before the Northern Wasteland dynasty. This man is a genius and is the first martial sovereign born in the Northern Wasteland in the past 10,000 years. Emperor Yuan was obsessed with martial Dao. After breaking through the martial sovereign realm, he left the Northern Wasteland to pursue the higher realm of martial Dao. If not, it would not be the turn of the Northern Wilderness dynasty to rule this Northern Wilderness territory. Duan Jingcan never thought of it. The Qianyuan prefecture of the Qingyan dynasty actually has the inheritance left by Emperor Yuan. Duan Jingcan's eyes flickered slightly. Neither the Qingyan dynasty nor the Hanfang dynasty are capable of killing a mid-level martial king. It would make sense if the Qingyan dynasty had the inheritance of the Yuan emperor and other dynasties were involved. Yuanwang inheritance. Duan Jingcan's eyes were fiery. If he could get the Yuanwang inheritance, why would he bother to think about that skill? The inheritance of the Yuan emperor, I am bound to win. Duan Jingcan suddenly stood up from the throne. I have decided to go to the Qingyan dynasty in person. Not many people in the Northern Wasteland know about the inheritance of Emperor Yuan. If you go there in person, the eyes of other dynasties will probably gather there. Master Yiyang shook his head. What's more, Patriarch Tianqian's death is approaching and he decided to use that technique to fight for a chance of survival. You and I need to protect him. Duan Jingcan was shocked. The Patriarch of Tianqian is the founder of Tianqian sect. Back then, the Tianqian sect overthrew the rule of the Northern Wilderness dynasty, and the ancestor of Tianqian paid a heavy price for this and was always in a state of serious injury. If the ancestor of Zen today decides to practice that skill, it seems that the situation is very bad. Duan Jingcan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, since you and I can't move lightly, who do you think is appropriate to send to the Emperor Yuan's inheritance? Don't worry, Your Majesty, Tianqian Temple has its own arrangements for this matter. Master Yiyang smiled faintly, his old eyes shining with confidence. Qianyuan Prefecture, where the Yuan Emperor's inheritance is located, belongs to the Qingyan dynasty. As long as we can control the Qingyan dynasty, the Yuanwang inheritance is within our grasp. And in my hand, I just have the weight to control the Qingyan dynasty. Han Feng Dynasty. Royal Palace. Tuoba Zan sat in the seat dedicated to his father, Tuoba Han, looking extremely excited. The battle at Qijiangguan. The second brother Tuoba Kui is dead. Father Tuoba Han is also dead. At the moment of Tuoba Han's death, he fled back to the Hanfang dynasty and succeeded him as the new king of the Hanfang dynasty. Your Majesty, the previous king fell outside the Red Sword Pass, and the Hanfang dynasty's strength plummeted. Once the Qingyan dynasty invades, the Hanfang dynasty may not be able to resist it at all. Your Majesty must make preparations in advance. Beside Tuoba Zan, a confidant couldn't help but give a careful reminder. When Tuoba Zan heard this, he smiled calmly. Don't worry, I have already prepared a countermeasure. On the way back, Tuoba Zan had already anticipated this. Therefore, he had already had people spread the news that Qianyuan state had the inheritance of martial sovereign. It won't take long. The eyes of the other 8 dynasties in the northern wasteland are probably all focused on Qianyuan prefecture. Yilingtian and the Qingyan dynasty will definitely become the target of public criticism, so how can they have the energy to invade the Hanfang dynasty? However, just as Tuoba Zan finished speaking, a Taoist figure rushed in from outside the hall. Bai Yuntao, you are also the deputy commander of Han Fengwei now. How can you behave in such a panic? Tuoba Zan looked at the person coming and couldn't help but scolded him sharply. Your Majesty, something bad has happened. King Qingyan, he is here. Bai Yuntao said quickly with a look of horror. King Qingyan is here. Hearing Bai Yuntao's words, Tuoba Zan's expression changed in shock. Today's Qingyan King Yilingtian is a freak. Thinking of Tuoba Han evaporating out of thin air in front of Yilingtian, Tuoba Zan felt that his legs were even weaker than they had been 7 times a night. What's going on? Tell me clearly. Did King Qingyan lead the Qingyan dynasty to invade the Hanfang dynasty? Where did they attack? Tuoba Zan composed himself and suppressed the panic in his heart. The Hanfang dynasty is not too big, not too small. Even if the Qingyan dynasty had already invaded the Qingyan dynasty, they wouldn't have invaded the Hanfang king's city so quickly, right? As long as the Qingyan dynasty did not defeat the Hanfang dynasty, Tuoba Zan would not care. It won't take long. When the news of the inheritance of martial sovereign in Qianyuan prefecture spreads, the Qingyan dynasty will have a fire in its backyard, so why bother attacking the Hanfang dynasty? Your Majesty, the Qingyan dynasty did not invade the Hanfang dynasty, it was King Qingyan who came. Bai Yuntao trembled and said, King Qingyan appeared alone outside Hanfang dynasty. When Tuoba Zan heard this, his face became extremely ugly. The Qingyan dynasty did not invade the Hanfang dynasty, but Yilingtian came to Hanfang king's city alone. To capture the thief, capture the king first. Yilingtian's purpose is obviously to use absolute strength to suppress the core power of the Hanfang dynasty and make the Hanfang dynasty surrender. What a Yilingtian, he actually wants to suppress our Hanfang dynasty by himself. Tuoba Zan took a deep breath and snorted coldly, follow me to meet King Qingyan. I really don't believe that he can break into Hanfang king's city. The Hanfang dynasty is not the Qingyan dynasty without any background. As early as the Northern Wasteland dynasty era, their ancestors of the Tuoba family once followed the Baiwang emperor to conquer the world. Later, the Northern Wilderness dynasty unified the Northern Wilderness territory, and the ancestor of the Tuoba family was named King Hanfang, guarding the north of the Northern Wilderness dynasty. All these years, Hanfang King City has long been built into a fortified city with extremely powerful defensive formations. Even the top-level martial king may not be able to break it easily. Not to mention, the previous king of Hanfang dynasty and a more than 300-year-old ancestor of their Tuoba tribe has not died, and has been practicing in seclusion deep underground in Hanfang King City. Tuoba Zan has already contacted that ancestor. If the Hanfang dynasty falls into crisis and he cannot withstand it, the ancestor will personally take action. Surrounded by a group of people, Tuoba Zan went straight to the wall of Hanfang King City. Less than 100 meters away from Hanfang King City, in the air, a heroic young man stood in the air with his hands behind his back. It was Qingyan King Yilingtian. Yilingtian, why did you come to Hanfang King City? Tuoba Zan looked up at Yilingtian and couldn't help but scolded him harshly. Come to destroy the Hanfang dynasty. Yilingtian said calmly. Tuoba Zan, I give you 2 choices, either surrender or die. Yilingtian, don't be too arrogant. Tuoba Zan's eyes were gloomy. If you want to kill me, it depends on whether you have the ability. Yilingtian raised his hand and waved, and a force hit the sky above Hanfang King City. Buzz. A blue light curtain emerged over Hanfang King City. This formation should be what you rely on, right? Yilingtian looked at Tuoba Zan with a smile. There is an old guy in seclusion deep underground in Hanfang King City. Do you want to call him out too? Tuoba Zan smiled coldly. Let's wait until you break the formation. Yilingtian was too lazy to talk nonsense. Just when he was about to take action to break the formation, the blue light curtain changed and distorted, and then disappeared inexplicably. Quote? Yilingtian was stunned. Tuoba Zan and the people from Hanfang dynasty were also stunned. The defensive formation of Hanfang King City has not had any problems for hundreds of years, so why did something go wrong at the critical moment? Tuoba Zan was shocked and angry. The city defense formation of Hanfang King City is one of his biggest trump cards. Just yesterday, he also specifically asked the formation master to check the situation of the city defense formation. Why is there something wrong with the formation when Yilingtian comes today? This is not normal at all. There is probably a mole in Hanfang dynasty. Someone has tampered with the strategy. Whoever destroyed the city defense formation, please get out of here. Tuo Bazan looked at the senior officials of the Hanfang dynasty beside him. His eyes were extremely ferocious, and he wished he could devour the person who betrayed the Hanfang dynasty. Brother, don't be so excited. I ordered the city defense formation to be removed. The moment Tuo Bazan finished speaking, a voice sounded leisurely. Tuo Bazan suddenly looked for his voice and saw a graceful and elegant young man slowly climbing up the city wall. Tuo Bazan, you, the dignified third prince of the Hanfang dynasty, betrayed the Hanfang dynasty. Are you worthy of the ancestors of the Tuoba family? Tuo Bazan stared at the visitor, his eyes almost bursting with fire. It never occurred to him. Tuo Bazan, the third prince who was relatively transparent in the Hanfang dynasty, actually stabbed him in the back at a critical moment. Brother, you are still too small. Why should we be worthy of the ancestors of the Tuoba family? Why not just open a single page of the genealogy? Tuo Bazan smiled calmly and ignored Tuo Bazan. He looked directly at Yilingtian and bowed slightly to Yilingtian. King Qingyan, Tuo Bazan is willing to lead the Hanfang dynasty to surrender and submit to the Qingyan dynasty forever. Ding! The peerless Confucian and Taoist immortal body has been detected. If you conquer the Confucian and Taoist immortal body, you can get 10,000 immortal dynasty points. At this moment, the system prompt sounded in Yilingtian's mind. Confucianism and Taoism. Yilingtian was slightly startled, and his eyes couldn't help but fall on Tuo Bazan. Sister Tongzi obviously gave the prompt after Tuo Bazan appeared. That is to say, Tuo Bazan has a peerless Confucian, Taoist and immortal body. Sister Tongzi, this Tuo Bazan is also an immortal, are you sure you are not mistaken? Yilingtian couldn't believe it. The Confucian and Taoist immortal body sounds like a peerless monster on the same level as the Taiyan immortal body. If Tuo Bazan had such a physique, as the third prince of the Hanfang dynasty, he would probably have become a top genius famous in the northern wasteland. But Tuo Buxuan has never been famous. And, with Yiling's martial sovereign's eyesight, it is not difficult to see that Tuo Bazan has not even reached the martial master level. Martial apprentice in his 20s. This kind of talent of martial Tao is simply useless. How could this guy have an immortal body? The Confucian and Taoist immortal body, as the name suggests, is an immortal body suitable for practicing Confucianism and Taoism. Xuanwang Great World Martial Tao is prosperous, but has no inheritance of Confucianism and Taoism. Naturally, it is no different from a useless body. The system explained to Yilingtian. Yilingtian understands. Although Tuo Bazan possessed a Confucian and Taoist immortal body, it was a pity that he was reincarnated in the wrong place and had no use at all in the Xuanwang Great World. But, this problem is not a problem at all for Yilingtian. He could use immortal dynasty points to tailor-make a Confucian and Taoist inheritance for Tuo Bazan. By the time, the Qingyan dynasty will have another peerless evildoer who is not inferior to Yu Wushwang. Certainly, unless Tuo Bazan is absolutely loyal to him, Yilingtian will not easily customize Confucianism and Taoism inheritance for Tuo Bazan. Master, in the immortal dynasty mode, as an attribute of dynasty strength, all the strong men with peerless physiques and above the martial king level will be recorded in the book, and you can see the loyalty by unfolding it. When Yilingtian heard this, he immediately opened the option of dynasty strength and saw 2 lines of information. Yilingtian, King of Qingyan Dynasty, top-level martial sovereign, loyalty. Yu Wushwang, Taiyan immortal body, elementary martial king, loyalty 95. Yilingtian's eyes lit up slightly. Sister Tongzi is quite humane. With this function, Yilingtian no longer has to worry about training a white-eyed wolf. Tuo Bazan, I am the king of the Hanfang dynasty now. You are just a useless prince. What qualifications do you have to represent the Hanfang dynasty? Just as Yilingtian was communicating with the system, Tuo Bazan's angry roar rang in his ears. Tuo Bazan was about to speak, but Yilingtian's faint voice was the first to speak. I said he was qualified, and he was qualified. From now on, you are no longer King Hanfang. Tuo Bazan raised his head and looked at Yilingtian, his eyes looking extremely ferocious. Yiling Tian, when will it be your turn to intervene in the affairs of our Hanfang dynasty? After saying that, Tuo Bazan bowed deeply to Hanfang royal city. Unfilial descendant Tuo Bazan, please ask the old man to take action to resolve the crisis for the Hanfang dynasty. Tuo Bazan just kept kneeling. 1 second, 2 seconds. ... After kneeling for a full minute, there was no response from Hanfang King City. Quote? Tuo Bazan panicked immediately. Ancestor, what's going on? Didn't he promise that when I couldn't stand it anymore, he would take action himself? Why did you pretend to be dead when you called him at the critical moment? Could it be that this old Yinbi gave in after seeing Yiling Tian and felt that he couldn't do it to Yiling Tian? So paralyzed, isn't this ancestor a little too stubborn? Why is the ancestor of their Tuoba family such an unreliable thing? Seeing that Tuoba's attempt to summon his ancestors failed, Yiling Tian couldn't help but take a deep look at something underneath the Hanfang dynasty. Immediately, he looked at Tuo Bazan with a smile. Tuo Bazan, stop kneeling. Your ancestor should be ranked 6th. Even if you kneel through the wall of Hanfang King City, he may not come out. Tuo Bazan's complexion instantly turned extremely pale. The 2 trump cards in his hand are the protective formation of Hanfang King City and the ancestor who has lived for more than 300 years. Now the formation has been withdrawn by Tuo Bazan. Ancestor Go didn't dare to take action in secret. What can he use to compete with Yiling Tian? King Qingyan, I am also willing to lead the Hanfang dynasty to surrender to you. Tuo Bazan is just a waste. He doesn't have the ability to control the Hanfang dynasty. I can better manage the Hanfang dynasty for you. Tuo Bazan was still as high-spirited as before, and he quickly begged for mercy with a look of horror on his face. Waste. In my eyes, you are more useless than Tuo Bazan. Yiling Tian shook his head, and with a flick of his finger, a sword energy instantly penetrated Tuo Bazan's eyebrows. Beside Tuo Bazan, all the important ministers of the Hanfang dynasty were trembling, and they didn't even dare to make a sound. Even many people who originally supported Tuo Bazan chose to remain silent at this moment. Even the previous Hanfang king and the martial king ancestor of the Tuoba family who lived for more than 300 years chose to give in when they saw Yiling Tian killing his direct descendant. Why should they foolishly send him to die for Tuo Bazan? He dealt with Tuo Bazan lightly. Yiling Tian ignored the other members of the Hanfang dynasty and focused his gaze directly on Tuo Bazan. Tuo Bazan, I will give you a chance to choose. You can choose to become my follower or the king of Hanfang dynasty. Tuo Bazan was slightly startled. Before he could answer, an old voice came from the depths of Hanfang dynasty. Tuo Bazan, you can go with Emperor Qingyan. Before he finished speaking, an old man in blue robes and white hair suddenly appeared on the wall of Hanfang King City. He bowed slightly to Yiling Tian. Old Tuo Bahong is willing to take care of the territory of Hanhao Hanfang dynasty for Emperor Qingyan and defend the north of the dynasty. The old man is none other than Tuo Bahong, the ancestor of the Tuoba family and the previous Hanfang king. Originally, before meeting Yiling Tian, Tuo Bahong didn't take Yiling Tian seriously at all. But when Yiling Tian came to Hanfang King City and the terrifying consciousness that was superior to the martial king realm locked onto him, Tuo Bahong almost peed in fear. Martial sovereign realm. The new king of the Qingyan dynasty turned out to be a martial sovereign. That's why, when Tuoba summoned his ancestors, he chose to give in without hesitation. Now seeing that Yiling Tian seems to be more interested in Tuo Bazan, Tuo Bahong chose to show up. It was almost a matter of time before Yiling Tian broke through the martial sovereign realm and unified the northern wasteland to establish a new Qingyan dynasty when he was only in his 20s. The Hanfang dynasty was the first to surrender and became a subsidiary dynasty of the Qingyan dynasty, which was not a bad thing. If Tuo Bazan can stay with Yiling Tian and become Yiling Tian's confidant, his future achievements will be limitless. By the time, the status of the Hanfang dynasty in the Qingyan dynasty will inevitably increase. Tuo Bazan is willing to follow you, even if I am a slave, I am willing to do so. Tuo Bazan took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in his heart. In Tuo Bazan's heart, Yiling Tian is a genius of a generation who will be able to dominate the situation in the northern wasteland in the future. Even if the ancestor does not show up, Tuobazan will agree without hesitation. Not to mention, after the ancestor appeared, he honored Yi Lingtian as Emperor Qingyan. With Tuo Buxuan's intelligence, how could he fail to hear the implication of his ancestor's words? This is telling him that Yi Lingtian is already a martial sovereign. Being able to follow a martial sovereign is definitely the dream of everyone in the northern wasteland. Although Tuobazan didn't know why Yi Lingtian fell in love with him. But this is an opportunity. Ding! Congratulations to the master for conquering the peerless immortal physique, Confucianism, Taoism and immortal physique, and gaining 10,000 immortal dynasty points. After conquering the Confucian and Taoist immortal body of Tuobazan, a reward of 10,000 immortal dynasty points will be received. Yi Lingtian glanced at the immortal dynasty points. After redeeming 10 universal excellent grade fragment cards last time, there were only 1,000 immortal dynasty points left. He broke through the martial sovereign realm and obtained 3,000 immortal dynasty points. Tuobahong surrendered and received 1,000 immortal dynasty points. Adding in the 10,000 immortal dynasty points awarded for conquering the Confucian, Taoist and immortal body, the total is 15,000 immortal dynasty points. Yi Lingtian unfolded the dynasty's strength and checked Tuobazan's loyalty. Tuobazan, Confucianism and Taoism immortal body, martial apprentice realm, loyalty 90. Seeing Tuobazan's loyalty, Yi Lingtian was quite satisfied. In previous lives, Yi Lingtian loves a real-time strategy game called Heroes of the Three Kingdoms very much. Generally, a loyalty level of 90 or above means absolute loyalty to the Lord, and there is basically no possibility of betrayal. Tuobazan had just chosen to follow him, and he had 90 loyalty points, which was already very good. Since you have decided, then let me go. Yi Lingtian directly raised his hand and waved, and a force of force carried Tuobazan to his side. As for the people from Tuobahong and Hanfang dynasty, Yi Lingtian ignored them. He has revealed the aura of the martial sovereign realm to Tuobahong. Tuobahong is a mature and good Taoist guy who knows what he should do. Yi Lingtian didn't waste any time and took Tuobazan directly into a stream of light and quickly disappeared into the sky. Qingyan dynasty, Qianyuan prefecture. Yi Lingtian went to the Hanfang dynasty alone, and after making the Hanfang dynasty surrender, he returned directly here. Along the way, Yi Lingtian also learned a lot of important information from Tuobazan. Turn out to be the reason why Hanfang dynasty will win over Qianyuan state from Qingyan dynasty at all costs is because Qianyuan state has the martial sovereign inheritance. And, in order to cause trouble for the Qingyan dynasty and prevent the Qingyan dynasty from invading the Hanfang dynasty, Tuobazan has spread the news that there is a martial sovereign inheritance in Qianyuan prefecture. That is to say, this news will soon spread throughout the northern wasteland. Your Majesty, the news of the inheritance of martial sovereign has been spread. By then, the powerful men from the other 8 dynasties will probably be attracted. With the king's current strength, he can take this opportunity to suppress the powerful men of the 8 dynasties, make the 8 dynasties bow their heads, and create a new dynasty in the northern wasteland. Tuobazan said with excitement. His martial Dao talent is extremely poor, and he is destined to have difficulty becoming a strong martial Dao. Since Yi Lingtian valued him so much, he could only do his best to advise Yi Lingtian. Although the fantasy great world martial Dao is respected, Tuobazan believes that it is not necessarily impossible to break through the world with resourcefulness. Yi Lingtian looked at Tuobazan and couldn't help but smile slightly. Tuobazan, you don't really think that I am asking you to follow me, but just to make suggestions for me, right? Tuobazan was slightly startled. Apart from his good brains, he seems to have nothing worthy of Yi Lingtian's attention, right? You have a special physique. Although you are not suitable for practicing martial Dao, it does not mean that you cannot become a strong person. Yi Lingtian smiled and said, I have an inheritance here that is suitable for your cultivation. How far you can go depends on your luck. Just because you are not suitable for practicing martial Dao, doesn't it mean you can't become a strong person? A suitable inheritance for my cultivation. Tuobazan felt his head buzzing. He looked at Yi Lingtian in disbelief, his eyes flashing with unconcealable excitement. Your Majesty, can I really practice? Sister Tongzi, customize a Confucian and Taoist inheritance for me. Yi Lingtian didn't speak and directly communicated with the system in his mind. What level of Confucianism and Taoism does the master want to customize? King-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance requires 5,000 immortal dynasty points, and emperor-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance requires 15,000 immortal dynasty points. The level of Confucianism and Taoism inheritance corresponds to the corresponding realm of the Xuanwang Great World. Yi Lingtian was a little confused. According to Sister Tongzi's wishes, those with king-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance can cultivate to a level comparable to the martial king realm, while those with an imperial-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance can cultivate to a level comparable to the martial sovereign realm. But the inheritance of Confucianism and Taoism at the imperial level is too expensive. If he really wants to customize this thing, his immortal dynasty points will be cleared instantly. He also wanted to save more points for emergencies. At this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Master, you don't have to worry about it, just customize the king-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance. In terms of understanding alone, the Confucian and Taoist immortal physique is even better than the Taiyan immortal physique. Even if you give him a rubbish Confucianism and Taoism inheritance and bring him into the door of Confucianism and Taoism, he can rely on his own understanding to find his own way. When Yi Lingtian heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. Sister Tongzi, is there anyone more rubbish than a king-level Confucian and Taoist inheritance? Since Confucianism, Taoism and immortal physiology are so powerful, why should he waste immortal dynasty points? Just start a rubbish Confucianism and Taoism inheritance and let Tuobazan start Confucianism and Taoism. As for the rest, let Tuobazan realize it on his own. No, this system does not include garbage below the king level. Loli Tongzi's tone was full of arrogance. Yi Lingtian was a little helpless, so he had to spend 5,000 immortal dynasty points to customize a king-level Confucian and Taoist inheritance. Throwing the king-level Confucianism and Taoism inheritance to Tuobazan, Yi Lingtian immediately threw Tuobazan into the Hongmeng Tower. Now that Yi Lingtian has reached the top level of martial sovereign, his control over the Hongmeng Tower has become much stronger. He can send 3 or 5 people into the Hongmeng Tower to practice without any pressure at the same time. Yu Wushuang, Wei Xian, and Tuobazan were all sent to Hongmeng Tower by Yi Lingtian. Although he is a top-level martial sovereign, the overall strength of the Qingyan dynasty is still very weak, so they have to use the Hongmeng Tower to quickly cultivate some strong confidence. Your Majesty, there is an old man named Yi coming to visit outside the Qianyuan prefecture. Just when Yi Lingtian was settling down Tuobazan, a Qingyan guard hurriedly came to Yi Lingtian. An old man named Yi. Yi Lingtian's eyes suddenly condensed. Back then, the northern wasteland dynasty fell apart and the Yi family was divided into 2. Father Yi Qingyan's lineage was expelled from the Yi family for some reasons. Later, Yi Qingyan rose against the odds and founded the Qingyan dynasty from scratch, while the Yi family became the lackeys of the Tianqian dynasty. Over the years, the Yi family and the Qingyan dynasty have become strangers. Now that the Yi family suddenly appears, I'm afraid it's someone with bad intentions. Qianyuan Prefecture, Reception Room. Yi Lingtian sat high on the main seat in the living room. In front of him, there were 2 Taoist figures standing in the center of the living room. One of them is a thin 60-year-old man who looks like a sinister and cunning villain. Next to the old man is a middle-aged man in black with a cold and arrogant expression. This middle-aged man in black has a profound aura, which is not inferior to that of Thunder Dynasty's mysterious light. It is obvious that he is at least a high-level martial king. Why did you 2 come to see me? Yi Lingtian glanced at the 2 of them and said calmly. Yi Lingtian, are you Yi Qingyan's son? The 60-year-old man looked at Yi Lingtian with a smile. Let me introduce myself. I, Yi Zongshu, is the same generation as your grandfather Yi Chongshan, so he should be your clan grandfather. Old guy, can you call me by my name? Yi Lingtian snorted coldly, and a powerful pressure suddenly descended on Yi Zongshu. Before Yi Zongshu could react, he knelt down in front of Yi Lingtian with a thud, and his face became extremely pale. King Qingyan, Yi Zongshu is the envoy of the Tianqian dynasty. Isn't this a bit too much? When the middle-aged man in black saw this, he couldn't help but let out a faint cold snort. Yi Lingtian said coldly, since you are the envoy of the Tianqian dynasty, you should talk to me as an envoy and don't get married in front of me. Yi Lingtian, whether you admit it or not, it can't change the fact that your grandfather and I are brothers of the same race. Your grandfather made a big mistake back then and was expelled from the Yi family. Now that the Yuanwang inheritance has appeared in the Qingyan dynasty, the Qingyan dynasty will definitely be in danger. If you lead the Qingyan dynasty to surrender to the Tianqian dynasty, I can return your lineage to the Yi family tree, and the Qingyan dynasty can also receive the protection of the Tianqian dynasty. Yi Zongshu suppressed the humiliation in his heart and still kept a smile on his old face. Back then, he framed Yi Chongshan for the sake of becoming the head of the Yi family, causing Yi Chongshan's lineage to be expelled from the Yi family. After Yi Chongshan died, Yi Zongshu originally thought that Yi Chongshan's lineage would be abolished. But I didn't expect it. Yi Chongshan's son Yi Qingyan suddenly rose up against the odds and quickly became a strong man in the martial king realm, establishing the Qingyan dynasty from scratch. After the Yi family took refuge in the Tianqian dynasty, he only relied on the Tianqian dynasty to break through Wu venerable realm. In the powerful Tianqian dynasty, the Yi family is not even a first-class family. How could this make Yi Zongshu not envious and jealous? Yi Zongshu had always dreamed of taking over the Qingyan dynasty, but he had never had a chance. This time, Yi Qingyan disappeared, Yi Zongshu received support from the Tianqian dynasty, and his mind became active. Naturally, he had no good intentions when he asked Yi Lingtian to return to the Yi family. As long as the Qingyan dynasty surrenders to the Tianqian dynasty and Yi Lingtian returns to the Yi family, he will have countless ways to deal with Yi Lingtian and gradually control the Qingyan dynasty in his own hands. Hearing Yi Zongshu's words, Yi Lingtian almost laughed out of breath. Yi Zongshu, are you old and confused, or do you think I am a fool? Yi Lingtian sneered with disdain, returning to the Yi family. Sorry, your Yi family tree is not even a dog. Regarding the memories of the Yi family, Yi Lingtian didn't have many memories in his mind. Yi Lingtian didn't bother to delve into how his lineage was expelled from the Yi family. In Yi Lingtian's eyes, apart from having the same surname as him, this Yi family is no different from a strange family. And Yi Lingtian could see through the little juju in Yi Zongshu's heart at a glance. Return to the Yi family and find yourself an ancestor who can stab him in the back at any time. Unless he gets kicked in the head by a donkey. Wouldn't it be nice to have a single page of their Qingyan dynasty genealogy? King Qingyan, your Qingyan dynasty already has a formidable enemy, the Hanfang dynasty. Now that the news of the inheritance of Emperor Yuan has spread in the northern wasteland, the Qingyan dynasty will definitely become the target of public criticism. Our Tianqian dynasty is the first dynasty in the northern wasteland. Only the Tianqian dynasty can protect the Qingyan dynasty from worries. Seeing that Yi Zongshu's persuasion failed, the middle-aged man in black spoke calmly. Finished, Yi Lingtian glanced at the middle-aged man in black and directly issued an eviction order. After that, get out of here. King Qingyan, don't toast me and you'll be fined if you don't eat. The middle-aged man in black looked with gloomy eyes. Do you, the Qingyan dynasty, want to be the enemy of my Tianqian dynasty? The two countries are at peace with each other without cutting off the envoys. I've already given you a chance to live, why do you have to keep mumbling? Before Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he raised his hand and pressed lightly on the young man in black. Boom! The middle-aged man in black was immediately suppressed by a powerful force and was half kneeling on the ground, unable to move at all. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. The middle-aged man in black had dull eyes and a confused look on his face. Am I not a high-level martial king? Why did King Qingyan in front of him just raise his hand and let him kneel on the ground without even a chance to resist? How is this possible? Although before coming, the middle-aged man in black already knew that Yi Lingtian, the new king of the Qingyan dynasty, was already a young martial king and should not be underestimated. It can be due to poor information. He had no idea that Yi Lingtian had killed Martial King consecutively not long ago. Even the high-level Martial King Thunder mysterious light from Thunder Dynasty fell into the hands of Yi Lingtian. How is it possible? Next to the middle-aged man in black, Yi Zongshu was already frightened out of his wits and looked horrified. Yi Zongshu knew the strength of the middle-aged man in black very well. This is one of the few high-level martial kings in the Tianqian dynasty. Even a middle-aged man in black had no power to resist in front of Yi Lingtian. How could Yi Lingtian's strength be so terrifying? King Qingyan, you can't kill me. I am Duan Jinggying, the younger brother of the Tianqian King clan. If you dare to touch me, the Tianqian dynasty will fight you to the death." Quote. The middle-aged man in black suppressed the fear in his heart and threatened Yi Lingtian. "Isn't the Tianqian dynasty great? There is no one in this world that I dare not kill." Before Yi Lingtian finished speaking, Duan Jinggying, who was half kneeling on the ground, suddenly widened his eyes, and bright red blood kept gushing out from his 7 orifices. Yu. The horrifying scene in front of him immediately made Yi Zongshu feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His eyes looking at Yi Lingtian were filled with endless fear. "Yi Lingtian, after your family was expelled from the Yi family, you were attacked and killed. Your grandfather Yi Chongshan died on the spot, and your uncle Yi Qinglei died alone. This gave your father Yi Qingyan a chance to survive. Yi Qinglei is still alive now. If you dare to kill us, Yi Qinglei will definitely be buried with us." Hearing Yi Zongshu's words, Yi Lingtian's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Yi Zongshu with cold eyes. "My uncle Yi Qinglei, where is he?" When something happened to the Yi family, Yi Lingtian was not born yet. Almost all the information about Yi Qinglei in his memory was learned from Yi Qingyan. In Yi Qingyan's heart, Yi Qinglei's death for him has always been a pain in his heart. Although Yi Lingtian was a transmigrate, he inherited the memory and body of the original owner. He still respected this father whom he had never met. Now that he knows that Yi Qinglei is alive, Yi Lingtian will not just sit idly by. "You swear by the law of heaven that after I tell you about Yi Qinglei, you must let me go, otherwise you will not be able to break through the martial sovereign realm for the rest of your life." Yi Zongshu quickly put forward conditions. Originally, Yi Qinglei was used by them to coerce Yi Lingtian into surrender. But I didn't expect it. Not only is Yi Lingtian's strength astonishing, killing the high-level martial king Duan Jinggying instantly, he is also so decisive in his killing. At the critical moment of life and death, Yi Zongshu had to use Yi Qinglei to save his life. Only, Yi Qinglei is not in his hands now, but is controlled by the Tianqian dynasty. Once he told Yi Lingtian about it first. Duan Jinggying, the high-level martial king of Tianqian King clan, will most likely be used by Yi Lingtian as a bargaining chip in exchange for Yi Qinglei, and he can save his life for the time being. But he has no use value. With Yi Lingtian's decisive temper, I'm afraid he will never let him go. In order to save his own life, Yi Zongshu had no choice but to put forward conditions. "Good," Yi Lingtian said simply. "I swear by heaven, as long as you tell me about Yi Qinglei, I will let you go, otherwise you will never be able to break through the martial sovereign realm for the rest of your life. Once the oath of heaven is violated, it will be punished by heaven. No one can resist." But the oath of heaven that Yi Zongshu asked him to take had no binding force on him at all. He has now reached the top level of martial sovereign realm, and is only one step away from the martial god realm. Why does he need to break through to the martial sovereign realm? Not to mention, even if he hasn't broken through the martial sovereign realm yet, Yi Lingtian won't care. He is a master of the system, and his strength improvement mainly relies on the system character cards to return cultivation levels. How can the heavenly law of the fantasy great world sanction him? Seeing Yi Lingtian swear, Yi Zongshu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He did not hesitate and directly told Yi Qinglei's whereabouts. Yi Qinglei is now in Tianqian Temple of Tianqian Dynasty. Originally, if normal means cannot make you surrender today, we plan to use Yi Qinglei to force you to surrender and help Duan Jinggying obtain the Yuanwang inheritance. When Yi Zongshu said this, he smiled bitterly in his heart. The Tianqian dynasty had calculated everything, but they probably never expected that Yi Lingtian would have the strength to easily suppress the high-level martial king Duan Jinggying. Tianzin Temple. Yi Lingtian frowned slightly. With his current strength, the Tianqian dynasty will naturally not take him seriously. Only, if he went directly to the Tianqian dynasty and the Tianqian dynasty jumped over the wall, it might be detrimental to Yi Qinglei. Yi Lingtian glanced at Duan Jinggying, who had passed out, and asked calmly, "Duan Jinggying should be able to replace my uncle, right?" "Able," Yi Zongshu said quickly. Duan Jinggying is not only a direct descendant of the king of the Tianqian dynasty, but also a high-level martial king. The Tianqian dynasty still attaches great importance to him. Yi Lingtian didn't say much. He directly blocked Duan Jingying's cultivation and had people drag him down to keep him under guard. King Qingyan, can I leave now? Seeing this, Yi Zongshu couldn't help but said quickly, don't worry, after I go back, I will report it to the Tianqian dynasty as soon as possible and let you exchange for Yi Qinglei as soon as possible. Leave. Yi Lingtian looked at Yi Zongshu with a smile. If my guess is correct, when my father and others were attacked and killed, it should have something to do with your Yi family, right? Yi Lingtian, you can't go back on your word. You just swore an oath of heaven. When Yi Zongshu heard this, he immediately panicked. Yi Lingtian did not speak, and the sovereign aura that was superior to the martial king also emanated without reservation. The scent of martial sovereign. Yi Zongshu's eyes were dull, he couldn't believe his eyes at all, and he let out a roar of disbelief. You actually broke through the martial sovereign realm, how is that possible? Yi Zongshu looked horrified, and his entire face was ashen. Although he witnessed Yi Lingtian raising his hand to suppress the high-level martial king Duan Jingying, Yi Zongshu still never thought that Yi Lingtian had already broken through the martial sovereign realm. To know, in the past 10,000 years in the northern wasteland, only 2 martial sovereigns have been born. It's over. Miscalculated. Yi Lingtian has broken through the martial sovereign realm, and the heavenly oath he asked Yi Lingtian to take has no binding force at all. Yi Zongshu couldn't understand. We all come from the same Yi family and are all descended from the same ancestor. Why are Yi Lingtian and his family so evil? Yi Qingyan became the martial king and founded the Qingyan dynasty from scratch. This Yi Lingtian is even more outrageous. At just 20 years old, he became the 3rd martial sovereign in the northern wasteland in 10,000 years. It won't take long. The Qingyan dynasty will probably open a new era in the northern wasteland and advance to the Qingyan dynasty. King Qingyan, I was wrong. I was just confused about what happened back then. I am willing to give up my position as the head of the Yi family to you and be a dog by your side. The Yi family has been rooted in the Tianqian dynasty for many years, and it will be of some use to you in attacking the Tianqian dynasty in the future. Yi Zongshu's face turned pale, and he quickly begged Yi Lingtian for mercy in a low voice. I don't need a dog that can bite its owner at any time, and you don't have the qualifications either. After Yi Lingtian finished speaking, he raised his hand and a sword energy penetrated Yi Zongshu's eyebrows. Just when Yi Lingtian was dealing with Yi Zongshu and the others. The news that the Qianyuan state of the Qingyan dynasty had the inheritance of martial sovereign gradually spread in the northern wasteland. The entire northern wilderness territory was shaken. The powerful men from all the major dynasties gathered towards the Qianyuan prefecture of the Qingyan dynasty. In the center of the northern wasteland, one of the 3 top dynasties, the Thunder dynasty. Thunder King Lei Xuantong stood proudly in a hall with his hands behind his back. Beside him, there was an old man in Taoist robes with deep eyes. Suddenly, Lei Xuantong turned around and looked at the old man in Taoist robes beside him. National Master, Mysterious Light and Lei Yu both died in the Qingyan dynasty. News of the inheritance of martial sovereign came out of the Qingyan dynasty. What do you think? Whether Mysterious Light and the others' fall is related to the Qingyan dynasty, this is an opportunity for the Thunder dynasty. The old man in Taoist robes said softly, even at all costs, we must obtain the martial sovereign inheritance. Lei Xuantong was silent. Among the 3 top dynasties in the northern wilderness region, the Tianqian dynasty is the strongest, and the Great Wilderness dynasty has the heritage of the Northern Wilderness dynasty. It is said that some people in these 2 dynasties are trying to attack the martial sovereign realm. Only Thunder dynasty fell behind. But it is precisely because the core figures of the 2 dynasties are busy attacking the martial sovereign realm that the martial sovereign inheritance of the Qingyan dynasty is the opportunity for the Thunder dynasty. Thinking of this, a look of determination flashed across Lei Xuantong's eyes. In this case, the imperial master should come with me to the Qingyan dynasty. Martial sovereign inheritance, I am bound to win it. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.